Chapter 223. Gu Anna's fantasy. Jiang Qiong grew more uneasy the more she thought about it. She took out an elixir and started accelerating the restoration of her spiritual power. The sky darkened, and the only sound was the lava below crashing against the mountain walls, making the atmosphere incredibly oppressive. Half a day passed. Jiang Qiong's spiritual power had recovered considerably. She stood up and headed in the direction the ghost mother of ephemera had gone earlier. Meanwhile, Liya had already mastered the power of the divine exotic city. Although he still couldn't see every corner of the city, he felt unbelievably powerful now. Before entering the divine exotic city, he had doubts about the legends of the immortal path supreme treasure. How could it be that legendary? Let's go, there's a big battle outside the city. Let's go watch the fun. Liya stood up, his face full of high spirits. Zhang Buku followed him up, staring blankly at him. Liya shrugged his shoulder, and the divine exotic immortal spirit jumped out of his body, landing on his shoulder with its hands on its hips, looking very spirited. Looking at the divine exotic immortal spirit, Zhang Buku had a strange expression. It was hard to imagine that this little being was the immortal spirit of the immortal path supreme treasure. Liya raised his right arm, and the divine exotic immortal spirit immediately mimicked him. Rumble! The ground trembled, and the sky changed color, making Zhang Buku look around nervously. One by one, the divine soul demons broke through the ground, lifting big trees into the sky. The same scene repeated everywhere, forcing Zhang Buku and Liya to stabilize themselves with their spiritual power. Liya laughed proudly. "These are my divine army. Follow me to conquer the world." Zhang Buku looked at him, just about to speak, when suddenly the ground beneath them rose with a roar. A terrifying giant shadow stood up, holding a piece of land in its hand with a forest on it, where Zhang Buku and Liya were standing. Compared to this terrifying giant shadow, they were as small as ants. This terrifying giant shadow was the same 10,000-foot figure that had fought against the nine-fingered divine lord before. One hand held the land, and the other held an axe, looking like a giant god who opened the sky, with divine majesty spreading wide. Zhang Buku looked down, his eyes wide with shock. Liya was extremely excited. With such a divine army, how could he not sweep away all enemies? He could sense a terrifying battle outside the divine exotic city, but he also saw the disciples of the supreme sect, and he had to step forward. Primordial ancestor, this time I will be the hero, watch me. Liya was trembling with excitement. He suddenly thought of Guan. If only junior brother Gu was here, how great that would be. But if junior brother Gu were here, he would still worry about his safety. Never mind, after this battle, he would brag about it to him. Liya began to think about what treasures to bring back for junior brother Gu. The divine exotic city was so vast and had countless treasures. Just bringing a few out would be enough to reverse Gu An's fate. Gu An was in a minor heaven and earth, harvesting heaven and earth treasures. His lifespan kept increasing, which made him very happy. He saw that the 4 gates of the divine exotic city opened, and Liya rushed out with an endless stream of divine soul demons, immediately affecting the battle. Over 20 wandering immortals from the Star Sea congregations and the 7 Stars spirit realm were all disturbed and retreated. The 10,000-foot figure suddenly leaped out of the city, landing on the wilderness, roaring ferociously, and the sound echoed throughout the continent, making everyone tremble with fear. Just the roar alone was enough to make people lose their courage. Gu An was not worried about Liya. After all, the divine exotic immortal spirit itself possessed the power of a heaven and earth flying immortal. He continued harvesting heaven and earth treasures, having gained an 80,000-year lifespan today. He did not intend to harvest everything, as he had to leave some for the immortal spirit to continue planting. Since the divine exotic city belonged to him, he planned to let the immortal spirit set rules for Liya. Usually, don't pluck the heaven and earth treasures randomly. It would prepare mature medicinal herbs for Liya, who would surely accept them excitedly without suspicion. Looking at Liya's spirited appearance made Gu An want to laugh. After this battle, Liya would surely come to show off. Gu An began imagining that 1,000 years later, When Leah thought his end was near and came to bid him farewell with the divine exotic city, what kind of scene would it be? Interesting. Guan was just thinking when he suddenly felt something. He frowned and disappeared from the spot. In another realm, thunder clouds rolled, covering the sky. In a basin between the mountains, Jiang Qiong slowly stood up from the ground, clutching the wound on her right shoulder with her left hand, blood flowing continuously from the corner of her mouth. She looked ahead. Figures in black robes filled the slopes. Meditating at the highest point was an elder with a wooden staff beside him, from which black gas wafted, wrapping the ghost mother of ephemera in the air. The ghost mother of ephemera had already turned into a soul body and was extremely weak. She opened her eyes with difficulty and looked at Jiang Qiong down the mountain. "Little girl, you have a good fighting spirit. Just right for luring the ghost king of hell." The black-robed elder spoke with a mocking tone. The other black-robed cultivators all looked down at Jiang Qiong with cold eyes. To them, Jiang Qiong was already a dead person. The ghost king of hell? What exactly are you looking for? Jiang Qiong gritted her teeth, thinking about how to escape. The difference in cultivation was too great. Any one of these people could easily kill her. The ghost king of hell is the strongest ghost king hidden in this world. It guards an immortal treasure. The black-robed elder spoke nonchalantly. A black-robed cultivator started descending the mountain, step by step approaching Jiang Qiong. Just as Jiang Qiong was extremely anxious, a gust of wind came from afar, making her instinctively close her eyes. The gust of wind whistled past, and Jiang Qiong felt her injury had somewhat healed, whether it was an illusion or not. She quickly opened her eyes and was astonished to find that those mysterious cultivators had disappeared. The soul body of the ghost mother of ephemera was suspended in the air above the slope, slowly falling. Before Jiang Qiong could react, a whooshing sound came from afar, and a blood-red treasure pagoda descended from the sky, landing in front of her, scaring her to retreat instinctively. The blood-red treasure pagoda burst out with immense power, turning into blood mist, which quickly wrapped around Jiang Qiong, pulling her towards the pagoda. Jiang Qiong's face was full of fear when she heard a voice in her ear, "Do not panic." Hearing this voice, Jiang Qiong instantly felt at ease. Sword Venerable Fudao. He had come too. She was pulled into the blood-red treasure pagoda, her figure disappearing. The ghost mother of ephemera fell to the ground, turned her head to look, her face full of worry. Twilight approached. The towering divine exotic city stood on the wilderness, its 4 gates wide open. Cultivators continuously flew out, appearing as if they were being thrown out by some force instead of flying out on their own. Leah stood on a high slope at the edge of the ruins, the divine exotic immortal spirit standing on his shoulder, guarding him. 2 figures appeared beside him, one being Qi Bei, the master of Qi Jiuxiao, the other a middle-aged man in luxurious white robes, with a commanding presence. "I am the Sea Lord of the Star Sea Congregations, Nan Feng Tian. After this battle, the 7 Stars Spirit Realm will surely hold a grudge against you. You possess the immortal treasure, and relying solely on your own strength might not be enough to protect it. Come back with us to the Star Sea Congregations. We will train you as a true disciple, treating you better than Shen Tianyi." The man in white robes spoke. Qi Bei followed. The Star Sea Congregations is a great righteous sect. Many cultivators from the Supreme Sect are your seniors, so you can join without worry. Leah looked at the divine exotic city and said, "Thank you both for your kindness. I am willing to join the Star Sea Congregations, but can I visit the Supreme Sect first?" He was not foolish. After this battle, he had to choose a power to lean on. LV Baitin had also just sent him a message, advising him to ally with the Star Sea Congregations. Nan Feng Tian smiled. "Of course, we also want to visit the Supreme Sect. I heard the Supreme Sect hides a great cultivator stronger than a loose immortal, named Sword Venerable Fudao. This indicates the Supreme Sect's great Qi fortune. It's a treasure land." Leah smiled, thinking that Sword Venerable Fudao was his primordial ancestor. It was not the Supreme Sect's good fortune, but the sect had benefited from the Li family's Qi fortune. Of course, he wouldn't say this out loud to avoid causing trouble for his primordial ancestor. They continued chatting. Leah wanted to take two companions, Zhang Buku and Gu, and hearing that Gu Wen was only in the Foundation establishment realm, Nen Fengtian advised against taking him, as his cultivation was too low. Without a nascent soul, joining the Star Sea congregations recklessly would only lead to setbacks, especially since Leah couldn't always look after him. As for Zhang Buku, his strong Qi blood made him an excellent candidate. Leah frowned, not very happy. Qi Bei had to continue to persuade him, describing the atmosphere in the Star Sea congregations at length, and only then did Leah give up. Far in the Third Medicine Valley harvesting medicinal herbs, Gu Wen pouted. What Foundation establishment realm? I had already formed my core. Gu Wen inwardly sneered, having no intention of joining the Star Sea congregations. The Star Sea congregations had too many old monsters, making it unsafe. Unlike the Supreme Sect, where Gu Wen was already the strongest, he had absolute confidence staying there. Seeing that Li Ya allied with the Star Sea congregations, Gu Wen felt completely relieved. In the Divine Exotic City, he had harvested 1,500,000 years of lifespan, pushing his lifespan past 1,000,000 again, putting him in a great mood. He planned to revisit the Divine Exotic City after some time. Even if Li Ya went to the sea, with his cultivation level, he could hardly escape Gu An's divine sense. Besides, Gu Wen had established a soul connection with the Divine Exotic City, ensuring he could track it wherever it went. Li Ya had begun expelling the adventurers from the Divine Exotic City. Gu Wen had not only given Jiang Qiong an immortal treasure but also given Zhenqin one. Immortal treasures could merge into the body, making them hard to detect. Once Yilan was unsealed and her maximum lifespan increased, Gu Wen would give her an immortal treasure too. The Divine Exotic City held many immortal treasures. Controlling it brought unimaginable gains. Gu Wen couldn't help but hum a little tune. Though he was hiding in the Medicine Valley, he could benefit those around him, making him feel truly great. Deeply hiding his work and name. One day, when his companions discovered the truth, how much gratitude would they feel? Gu Wen started to imagine again. Night fell, and a night passed. At dawn, Gu Wen saw Li Ya store the Divine Exotic City within himself and then, under the guidance of Nan Fengtian and others, head back to the Supreme Sect. They wanted to leave the continent early to avoid any mishaps. Gu Wen arrived early at the Mystic Valley and followed the disciples in their exercises. Just as they finished, Li Ya came flying from the horizon, directly into the Mystic Valley. Chapter 224 Gu Wen and Sword Venerable Fudao Mystic Valley, inside a pavilion. Li Ya slammed a small city onto the table. This small city was only the size of a palm, but a closer look revealed that its structure was extremely detailed and complex. It was indeed a miniature version of Divine Exotic City. He raised his chin, looking very proud. Gu Wen looked at Divine Exotic City and curiously asked, "What kind of carved artwork is this?" Li Ya's mouth twitched and he glared, "This is Divine Exotic City." Upon hearing this, Gu An's face showed a look of shock, which made Li Ya feel quite pleased, but Gu An's next words almost made him faint with anger. "Amazing, senior brother, you actually made a replica of Divine Exotic City." "What replica? This is real. Don't believe me? I'll summon the immortal spirit to show you." After saying this, Li Ya tried to summon the Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit in his mind, but no matter how he called, the immortal spirit did not come out. He immediately became anxious. "What's going on? Why are you pretending to be dead at such a critical moment?" Gu Wen almost burst out laughing, but fortunately, years of honing his acting skills had made them flawless. He pretended to try lifting Divine Exotic City with a puzzled expression. As the whole pavilion trembled, he was unable to lift the city. Could it be real? Gu Wen muttered. Li Ya couldn't care less about cursing the Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit in his mind. He said proudly, "Do you know how many great cultivators are inside Divine Exotic City?" He began to recount his experiences, not mentioning that the immortal spirit had approached him first, but instead claiming that he had gone through various trials to win the immortal spirit's recognition. Gu Wen listened with admiration. Who knew his acting was so good? If it weren't for me personally handing it to you, I might have believed you got it through the trials. Guwen was only teasing in his mind, outwardly agreeing to satisfy Li Ya's vanity. Li focused on describing his battles with the immortals from the Seven Stars spirit realm, making Guwen exclaim in surprise from time to time. After talking for a full 2 ancient hours, Li finally stopped, still somewhat unwilling to end it. How satisfying! It's always thrilling to brag with a brother. He wouldn't bother telling someone he's not close with. Seeing Guwen pouring tea for him, Li couldn't stop smiling. He took out a jade ruler from his storage bag, nearly 2 feet long and greenish-white in color. This is a high-grade magic artifact. I intended to give you an immortal treasure, but your cultivation level is too low. An immortal treasure would only bring you trouble. Li said seriously, then took out numerous heavenly materials and earthly treasures, placing them one by one on the table, and proceeded to accept them. Guwen felt very touched. Although Divine Exotic City was his, the fact that Li Ya, unaware of the truth, could still care for him this much proved Li Ya's loyalty to him. Guwen was very generous to those around him, but most of it was just a small effort. Those he truly gave to also gave him in return. I have to go to the Star Sea congregations. It may take 100 years before I return. Don't miss me too much. Li Ya said proudly, though he felt reluctant inside. 100 years was too long. No one could predict what would happen in 100 years. He also worried about Guwen, but he had his own path to follow. Guwen nodded and said, 100 years later, as long as you return, I will still be here waiting for you. Although living 1,000 years is hard, now that I have reached core formation, living a few hundred years shouldn't be a problem. Li Ya smiled, then reminisced about the days when they were still minors. Another ancient hour passed, and Li Ya left through the window. Guwen looked at the footprints he left behind and suspected he did it on purpose. No way, he'll have to let the divine exotic immortal spirit bully him a bit, in the name of teaching. Guwen made up his mind, simultaneously sending orders to the divine exotic immortal spirit through his mind. In the evening, Zhang Buku came to visit Guwen. He had prearranged with Li Ya to visit separately. Zhang Buku had personal matters he wanted to discuss alone with Guwen, while Li Ya didn't want to disrupt the seniority hierarchy. 3 people in one room would also be crowded. As expected, Zhang Buku debunked Li Ya, saying Li Ya was just lucky and the immortal spirit approached him first. However, he wasn't jealous of Li Ya, rather, he was happy for him, saying that if Li Ya wasn't strong enough, he feared they might die on their adventures. In the end, Zhang Buku also took out numerous heavenly materials and earthly treasures as gifts for Guwen in gratitude. Guwen tried to decline, but Zhang Buku insisted until Guwen had no choice but to accept them. Being able to repay Guwen made Zhang Buku very happy. He started talking about how he wished his father could see his achievements now. What a pity! It wasn't until evening that Zhang Buku finally left. Snow fluttered down as troops from the Supreme Sect returned. Zhen Qin came to visit Guwen first and also brought many treasures. Guwen couldn't help but laugh and cry, but he didn't refuse. 4 days later, at night, another person came to see Guwen. It was Jiang Qiong. The two entered the 8 scenic caves to chat. How have you been these years? Guwen asked softly, sitting in front of a green vine tree. 2 vines sprouted and began to massage his shoulders. Seeing him enjoying himself like this, Jiang Qiong couldn't help but roll her eyes. Jiang Qiong took out a medicine cauldron, lit a fire, and added water before answering. Pretty well. I recently went to Divine Exotic City and gained a lot. She started placing medicinal ingredients into the cauldron. Guwen immediately congratulated her. Do you know who I serve now? Jiang Qiong asked casually. Guwen shook his head and said, How would I know? In the immortal cultivation world, I am just an ordinary person who knows very few great cultivators. Sword Venerable Fudao. What? Guwen was shocked. He cursed inwardly, I told you not to say anything, how could you spill it so easily? If Jiang Qiong told him about Sword Venerable Fudao today, she might tell others tomorrow. How could he not be nervous? Of course, even if others knew about Jiang Qiong and Sword Venerable Fudao's relationship, it wouldn't threaten Guwen. However, Jiang Qiong might attract fatal trouble. I'm only telling you, so don't spread it around. Jiang Qiong said, turning to glare at Guwen fiercely. Guwen sighed and said, You shouldn't have told me. If he overhears this, won't I be in trouble? Jiang Qiong laughed and said, Don't worry, Sword Venerable Fudao doesn't kill nobodies. I'm just chatting with you. Then she turned the conversation to her experiences in Divine Exotic City. This trip to Divine Exotic City was full of dangers, and I nearly died. If it wasn't for Sword Venerable Fudao's intervention, you wouldn't see me here today. Jiang Qiong said with a slight air of melancholy. Guwen comforted her, You're back now though. With your fortune, you might even become an immortal someday. Jiang Qiong shook her head and said, An immortal? That's far too difficult. The higher you stand, the more fears you have. By the way, why do you think Sword Venerable Fudao cares so much for me? Could it be he fancies my looks? She glanced at Guwen, anticipating his reaction. Guwen frowned and said, Probably not. He's too powerful and renowned, not lacking in women. I care for you only because you've taught me so many spells. Thinking of you that way is too hurtful. Guwen felt insulted. How could Sword Venerable Fudao be so shallow? Seeing Guwen frown, Jiang Qiong felt a bit relieved, though his remarks annoyed her. There are many women in the world, but how many have you seen that are more beautiful than me? Jiang Qiong glared, stepping forward quickly to lean over Guwen and stare at him. Their faces were less than 10 centimeters apart, and Guwen, sitting on the ground, had to shift to the side. Jiang Qiong lifted her left foot, brushing past Guwen's ear and stepping on the tree trunk, stopping his movement. Why are you dodging? Do you find your martial master so repulsive? Jiang Qiong snorted. Guwen said awkwardly, Repulsive, never. I'm just afraid of offending you. He glanced downward for a moment. Jiang Qiong was wearing a skirt, though there were pants underneath, her posture was still quite improper. Offend? Jiang Qiong withdrew her foot, squatted down, and started pulling at Guwen's clothes. What are you doing? Guwen exclaimed in fear. Jiang Qiong replied, In case that being really has his eyes on me, how could I refuse? Before that happens, let me fulfill you. Although Sword Venerable Fudao was strong, Guwen was more important to her, even the most important. Guwen crawled away, but Jiang Qiong's strength increased, making it difficult for him to reveal his true cultivation level, leaving him in a dilemma. Stop this? This isn't right. By now, Guwen's robe was in disarray, even his hair was loose, and his face was flushed with embarrassment. Jiang Qiong laughed, stopping her actions, and said, Even if you don't comply tonight, it won't matter. I will force it if necessary. Ooh, Guwen panicked. Was she really going to do this? I've never even been with my junior sisters. How could I be with you, a witch? Guwen was about to call for Sword Venerable Fudao's intervention. Just then, Jiang Qiong stopped, stood up angrily and said, Look at you, so cowardly. Strip down and get into the cauldron. Did you really think I wanted to do anything to you? I'm just preparing an excellent body-tempering concoction for you. Guwen was stunned for a moment and then sighed in relief, quickly getting up. He walked past Jiang Qiong, only to get kicked in the butt by her. Hurry up and strip. Jiang Qiong said impatiently, feeling truly annoyed. In fact, she really had the impulse just now, but seeing Guwen's terrified look, she couldn't bring herself to do it. This made her both embarrassed and angry. Did this kid really think so little of her? Was it because of etiquette? Jiang Qiong thought of how Guwen grew up in a righteous path environment, surely respecting etiquette. She didn't respect that because she came from the demon path. With this thought, she felt much better again. After all, if he felt nothing, why did he glance down? Jiang Qiong smiled. Guwen approached the medicine cauldron, quickly stripped, and then leaped into the cauldron, splashing water. It's a bit hot. Guwen's voice came from within the cauldron. Jiang Qiong said coldly, Endure it. Are you afraid of a little pain? Guwen remained silent, not daring to speak further. The 8 scenic caves fell into silence. After placing all the medicinal ingredients into the cauldron, Jiang Qiong took out a blood-colored tower. She sat down and inspected it carefully. Guwen poked his head out and asked, What treasure is this? Jiang Qiong, staring at the blood-colored tower, replied, "This is the blood domain's soul-suppressing tower, an immortal treasure. It's incredibly powerful and I got it by sheer chance." Chapter 225 Outer World Cave. Jiang Qiong briefly introduced the formidable aspects of the blood domain soul-suppressing tower. This tower could suppress enemies. Once trapped within, they would lose their way and find it extremely difficult to escape. Moreover, they would constantly endure the burning of the blood flames within the tower, and if reduced to only their soul, there would be no chance of escape. According to the divine exotic immortal spirit, the blood domain soul-suppressing tower was absolutely one of the top 3 immortal treasures within divine exotic city, which was also the reason cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm sought it out. Most of the treasures within divine exotic city were plundered, some were seized by former owners from enemies, and others were left behind by adventurers after their deaths. The blood domain soul-suppressing tower had a long-standing reputation over the ocean and was considered a legendary supreme immortal treasure. Gu Wen often exclaimed in amazement, which caused Jiang Qiong to involuntarily smile. Watching Gu Wen's inexperienced expression, she did not feel annoyed. Instead, she found it amusing. In other places, her cultivation level was insignificant, but in front of Gu Wen, she was a great cultivator. Even though many people looked down on her, as long as Gu Wen admired her, it was enough. Jiang Qiong then recounted her experiences from past years, including the founding of the Juhua sect. Gu Wen listened attentively, even though he often used his divine sense to keep an eye on Jiang Qiong. Hearing stories directly from her was more interesting. Night passed. By noon the next day, Gu Wen leaped out of the medicine cauldron and quickly put on his robe. Jiang Qiong approached him, scrutinizing him with amazement, and said, "I didn't expect your absorption speed to be so quick." Gu Wen precisely controlled his qi blood, ensuring Jiang Qiong did not notice any issues. "Thank you," Gu Wen said earnestly. Jiang Qiong thought to herself that this kid still wouldn't call her martial master. She would have been angry in the past, but now she felt a hint of delight. She raised her head and said, "Practice your sword well. Your sword Dao talent is outstanding. As for your cultivation level, I will find a way to help you improve." "This isn't appropriate. You should keep it for yourself. Giving it to me is a waste." Gu Wen hesitated, genuinely grateful to Jiang Qiong. Having this intention was enough. There was no need to take it seriously. If combat prowess had a numerical value, with Jiang Qiong's help last night, Gu Wan's combat power would have successfully increased from 100 billion to 100 billion and 1. Indeed, it had enhanced, but this slight increase in value was more valuable to Jiang Qiong. Jiang Qiong snorted, "Rest assured, I won't delay my cultivation." Gu Wen had to give up. Jiang Qiong asked Gu Wen about his experiences over the years, and Gu Wen did not hide anything, but as she listened, Jiang Qiong became increasingly unable to withstand it. Planting herbs, why are you always planting herbs?" Jiang Qiong exclaimed. Gu Wen pouted, "Yeah, just planting herbs. What else do you expect me to have experienced? Don't underestimate herb planting. Different medicinal herbs bring different feelings." He began to enthusiastically recount his planting experiences. Jiang Qiong suppressed the irritability in her heart and listened carefully. Gradually, her mood calmed down. To her surprise, listening to Gu Wen talk about his farming life was quite interesting, bringing her thoughts back to her childhood. Time flew by. Until nightfall, Jiang Qiong bid farewell and left. Gu Wen did not leave the 8 scenic caves, planning to go out early the next morning. In the following winter, discussions about divine exotic city spread throughout the supreme sect cities, and Li Ya's name reverberated throughout the immortal cultivation world, surpassing Sword Venerable Fudao and Panin. Many believed that with the control of divine exotic city, Li Ya would become an immortal in the future. Moreover, Li Ya was very young, and some already called him the best of the younger generation, even surpassing in Hao. Li Ya's prominence did not affect Gu Wan's life. With the capture of divine exotic city, many great cultivators overseas left, but some cultivators stayed behind, joining various sects, with the supreme sect absorbing the most. Because Li Ya hailed from the supreme sect, With control of Divine Exotic City, Leah didn't need to wait for the future. He possessed power beyond a loose immortal, to the extent that even wandering immortals couldn't do anything to him. In this way, a new spring arrived. That year, the Supreme Sect's New Year celebrations were livelier than ever. It was said that the Supreme Sect was preparing to head south in search of an island to establish a city, with the support of the Star Sea congregations, making the task much easier. After the new year, the Supreme Sect began recruiting disciples for the Southern Sea expedition, with 10,000 openings and excellent benefits, leading to active registrations across all cities. Guwen remained busy harvesting medicinal herbs, occasionally worrying about the Seven Stars spirit realms stirring up trouble. Among the conflicts sparked by Divine Exotic City, the Seven Stars spirit realms suffered the most losses, but they currently appeared very calm, which made Guwen even more suspicious that they were brewing something. By March, the disciples of the Supreme Sect gradually put the matter of Divine Exotic City aside. On this day, Guwen went to the Outer Sect Book Collection Hall to hand over the last volume of Journey to the West. Despite the great elder Feng Shang's earnest attempts to persuade him to stay, Guwen found an excuse to leave. Not far from the book collection hall, a figure blocked Guwen. It was Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations, disguised as a chubby man, looking jovial. "Brother Gu, how have you been lately?" Yu Yingying asked with a smile, having used the sound transmission skill to reveal her true identity to Guwen in advance. Guwen replied with a smile, "Pretty good, how about you?" He couldn't understand why Yu Yingying always enjoyed shapeshifting. What was the fun in it? Within the Supreme Sect, her reputation wasn't widespread, making her actions pointless. "I'm quite well too. Lately I've been really bored. How about I go to your medicine valley to help you out?" Yu Yingying asked. Guwen hesitated for a moment and agreed, then directed her to the third medicine valley. Upon hearing this, Yu Yingying was immediately delighted and pulled Guwen towards her own residence to pack her things. "Your Supreme Sect has produced a Liya. With the support of the Star Sea congregations, you'll definitely rise to prominence. In the future, we'll at least assist you," Yu Yingying remarked as she walked, her tone slightly emotional. She had not expected that amidst the scramble of so many great cultivators, an obscure minor cultivator would gain Divine Exotic City's approval. As a member of the Star Sea congregations, she deeply understood the might of the fake immortal treasure, believing that Liya would undoubtedly become a significant great cultivator over the ocean. "That's great news," Guwen responded, trying to act surprised. Following this, Yu Yingying began describing those powerful Immortal Path Supreme treasures to Guwen. The Star Sea Primordial Unity banner of the Star Sea congregations was said to invert the stars and ocean within the formation, causing those who entered to become forever lost, and it could harness the power of stars and the ocean to change the course of events. The Seven Stars Mirror of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm contained ancient power, under whose light nothing could hide. Guwen found this very intriguing. He wondered what cultivation level was needed to craft an Immortal Path Supreme treasure. When he reached that level, he also planned to create one, making early plans to avoid panic when the time came. Spring went and autumn came, 5 years passed quickly. After Liya took Divine Exotic City, the mainland enjoyed peace. The Supreme Sect successfully established a city overseas, with even the Outer Sect having a transmission array platform leading to Southern Sea City. More and more disciples began training at sea, and news from the ocean continually arrived at the Supreme Sect. Since the completion of the teleportation array in Southern Sea City, Guwen saw new things in the Outer Gate City whenever he went, making him feel like he was at a fair. In early summer, Guwen arrived at Immortal Seeking Island. Led by the servant Hu Shaojian of the Sea Protection Mansion, Guwen strolled around Immortal Seeking Island, listening to the various disturbances on the sea. The friction between the Star Sea congregations and the Seven Stars Spirit Realm is increasing. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm has gone mad, constantly invading the Star Sea congregation's territories. It's said to be related to an Immortal Path Supreme treasure from 5 years ago. On a distant continent, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm released an Immortal Path Supreme treasure for others to contest, which was eventually obtained by a minor cultivator. The Star Sea congregations then recruited that minor cultivator, thoroughly offending the 7 stars spirit realm, who Xiaojian said with a sigh. Guan asked, why would the 7 stars spirit realm release the immortal path supreme treasure? He had wondered about this before, finding it very puzzling. The divine exotic immortal spirit also didn't know the reason, thinking it was because it was being too powerful, making it impossible for the 7 stars spirit realm cultivators to find. So, they released divine exotic city. But considering it from the 7 stars spirit realm's perspective, even if they couldn't conquer divine exotic city themselves, they shouldn't give other powers the chance. Hu Xiaojian pondered, it does seem unreasonable. Perhaps the 7 stars spirit realm needed an excuse to declare war on the Star Sea congregations? But using an immortal path supreme treasure as bait seems too exaggerated. The two continued chatting as they walked. Guan wasn't worried about causing trouble with the topic since the surrounding cultivators were all discussing the conflicts between the two great maritime powers. Half a day later, Guan left Immortal Seeking Island and arrived at Heavenly Phoenix Mountain's Nianchu Cave, bringing Tian Yaoer, Tian Qing, and Tian Bai into the grotto heaven. He took out the seeds he bought today and had the 3 demons plant them. Though Tian Qing and Tian Bai had not yet shapeshifted, their nimble claws made them capable of handling the planting duties. While they were planting, Guan went to the entrance of the grotto heaven, using his mana to create a stele, and then inscribed characters with his sword Qi. Outer World Cave. The meaning was to be forever isolated from the world. In the future, Guan wouldn't bring others here to live. This would always be his secluded medicine valley, specifically providing him with a longer lifespan. Because the seeds planted in the Outer World Cave were all high-rank seeds of level 7 or above, no medicinal herbs had matured yet. He wasn't in a hurry, patiently waiting. When the first batch of herbs matured, it would bring him a significant increase in lifespan, something he eagerly anticipated. 2 ancient hours later, Guan took them out of the Outer World Cave, walking along the underground passage towards Nianchu Cave. I've prepared shape-shifting elixirs for you. You can shape-shift in the next few days, Guan said as he walked ahead. Upon hearing this, Tian Qing and Tian Bai were overjoyed and hurriedly came forward to thank their master for his gift. Demons could achieve shape-shifting through their own cultivation, but the shape-shifting elixir could speed up the process and increase the success rate. If they relied on themselves for shape-shifting, failure would mean death or severe injury, similar to crossing a tribulation. Master, what about me? Tian Yaoer asked as she held Tian Bai, squeezing in beside Guan with a pitiful expression. Guan replied, I've prepared a batch of Qi blood enhancing elixirs for you. The elixirs he prepared for Tian Yaoer weren't ones he refined but were purchased on Immortal Seeking Island, worth a fortune, and made by the top alchemy sect on the sea, the Purple Pill Palace. Chapter 226, Sudden Change in the Sea. Strange fragrance. Guan did not personally oversee the shape-shifting of Tian Qing and Tian Bai. With Tian Yaoer around, he believed the 2 cat demons would be fine. Tian Yaoer's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the core formation realm, capable of handling matters independently. Guan first returned to the Mystic Valley, taking a few laps around the valley before heading to the 3rd Medicine Valley. The number of servant disciples in the 3rd Medicine Valley had increased to 800. As soon as he stepped out of the transmission array platform, he heard a commotion. He glanced up and saw some disciples sweeping, some patrolling the area, and others practicing spells. Under the distant trees, some were playing chess and Go. Guan was lenient in managing the disciples. As long as they completed their daily tasks, they could arrange their time freely. In the 3rd Medicine Valley, not all disciples were idle. Most harbored ambitions of becoming outer disciples, so they worked diligently to please Guan and obtain elixirs. Guan walked towards his pavilion. The Blood Prison Great Saint was dozing on the grass below the pavilion, nature's spiritual energy slowly flowing into his body. Suddenly, the pavilion door opened, and Yu Yingying beckoned to Guan. Seeing this, Guan sighed helplessly and walked over. This pavilion belonged to Lu Lingjun. After Divine Exotic City was taken by Liya, Lu Lingjun returned. She was in seclusion for cultivation until Yu Yingying entered the valley, causing a change. The two of them unexpectedly got along well. Having heard that Lu Lingjun was a great cultivator in the mystic heart realm, Yu Yingying became intrigued and approached her, successfully befriending her through her Star Sea congregation's background. Guwen didn't need to enter the pavilion to know what they would discuss. It was definitely about establishing the Ascension sect. Guwen was also forcibly pulled into their plan. As long as he provided medicinal herbs, he could secure a high-level seat in the future. Upon entering, Yu Yingying closed the door. Guwen walked into the hall. Lu Lingjun was sitting at the table, which was covered in papers, with a small white snake coiled on them. He sat down, teasing the white spirit demon emperor, enjoying stroking its snake head. The white spirit demon emperor, having concealed its cultivation, was usually docile. Besides, Lu Lingjun had privately instructed it, so it had to comply with Gu An's actions. Yu Yingying quickly sat beside Guwen, excitedly saying, "Recently, my people have tracked the whereabouts of ascenders. And there's more than one." Guwen responded irritably, "You dragged me into this just for that? I have no intention of leaving the Supreme Sect." He wondered what Lu Lingjun had said to make this native Yu Yingying so obsessed with creating the Ascension sect. Moreover, Yu Yingying, though only in the Foundation establishment realm, had many spies at sea. Previously, Guwen overheard their conversation and learned that Yu Yingying's grandfather was one of the Sea Lords of the Star Sea congregations, meaning he was at least in the wandering Immortal realm. Guwen felt quite unsettled about this. He had known Yu Yingying first, but she hadn't confided in him, instead revealing everything to Lu Lingjun. "Since you two are so close, why not just soar to great heights together?" Yu Yingying giggled. "Of course, it's not about asking you to invite them. With your cultivation level, seeing them would be quite difficult. I'm just informing you that the framework of the Ascension sect is almost formed." Lu Lingjun nodded, saying, "I plan to establish the Ascension sect outside the 3 dynasties. The Supreme Sect will also support us." To this, Guwen was not surprised. The position of the Taizong dynasty was too awkward, located at the southernmost part of the continent. The spirit mines discovered by the Supreme Sect in the Demon Clan's territory were constantly plundered by other sects, preventing the sect from expanding to the north. If the Ascension sect could be established, other sects might not target it. In the future, the cooperation between the two sects would certainly hinder the development efforts of other sections. Regarding the sect competition in the 3 dynasties area, Guwen had no intention of intervening. The Supreme Sect had not been gathering disciples or seeking Sword Venerable Fudeo's help, as both the Venerable Pavilion and the Hall of Elders were harboring pent-up frustrations, determined to elevate the Supreme Sect to the foremost sect among the 3 dynasties. Lu Lingjun said, "I plan to personally head south. I'm just letting you know so you won't wonder where I went." Guwen said, "You don't need to report your whereabouts to me." "Huh." Lu Lingjun glanced at him, her gaze slightly cold. Guwen pouted and said no more. Yu Yingying began excitedly detailing the information on the Ascenders. There were 5 in total, 3 males and 2 females, residing on an island within the Star Sea congregation's domain. The weakest among them had reached the Unification realm, with 2 having reached the Mystic Heart realm. There were actually many Ascenders overseas. Once they understood the survival rules of this world, they no longer hid their origins. After all, cultivators here couldn't ascend to the lower realms, and they weren't interested in the lower realms. Guwen listened attentively, contemplating the impact if the Ascension sect truly established itself in the immortal cultivation world on the continent. Ascenders might not have the highest cultivation, but their survival skills and temperament were formidable. Whether Lu Lingjun could win them over remained uncertain to Guwen. An hour later, Lu Lingjun left with the White Spirit Demon Emperor. Guwen and Yu Yingying saw them off. As Lu Lingjun's figure disappeared into the sky, Yu Yingying looked at Guwen, patted his shoulder, and laughed. "When the Ascension sect is established, you can be counted as an elder. Your destiny will change, remember to thank me." Guwen looked at her, curiously asking, "You're not even an Ascender. Why are you so enthusiastic?" Once the Ascension sect was established, those without Ascension experience would surely be marginalized or scorned, as the sect's teachings would focus on gathering ascenders. It's interesting. In this lifetime, if you could do a few notable things, it wouldn't be a waste of time in this mortal world. If you could leave a mark, that would be even better, Yu Yingying said matter-of-factly. Guwen was surprised. With your background, why do you sound like? He noticed that in her true form, Yu Yingying had a peculiar causal force within her, limiting her spiritual power's growth. Once her cultivation couldn't progress, even with a maximum lifespan of 5,000 years, Yu Yingying would surely die at the age of 400. Yu Yingying looked at him and sniffed, "Right, I already know my fate. In this lifetime, I can't pursue the immortal path." With that, she turned and left, not wanting to continue the conversation with Guwen. Guwen didn't press further. Having come this far, he asked a single question, as he wouldn't involve himself in Yu Yingying's fate. He couldn't ensure his junior sister's immortality, so he wasn't qualified to help others. He turned and went back inside to practice alchemy, planning to bring the elixirs to the outer gate city in a few days. The time came to the end of summer. In the third Medicine Valley, Guwen was studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles when he suddenly felt something, casting his gaze outside the window, frowning slightly. Why has this guy been so restless recently? Guwen pondered in confusion. In the past month, Liya repeatedly used the power of divine exotic city, starting anew today. Liya was far from him, and he couldn't capture him with divine sense due to the prohibitions of the Star Sea congregations along the way. He didn't want to alarm their great cultivators. Even without using divine sense, he could learn about Liya's situation through the mental connection with the divine exotic immortal spirit. After a moment of hesitation, Guwen inquired the divine exotic immortal spirit with his mind. Soon, the spirit informed him of the reason. Liya was exploring a secret realm, one of the legacy secret realms of the Star Sea congregations. If he succeeded, he'd gain the ancient legacy of the congregations. With the power of divine exotic city, Liya had already reached the final challenge, facing the remnants of the inheritor's soul, with the army of divine soul demons unable to capture it for a while. Knowing the reason, Guwen stopped worrying. Liya had been with the Star Sea congregations for over 5 years. If they had intended to harm him, they would have done so long ago. It seemed the congregations genuinely wanted to nurture him. Guwen withdrew his gaze and continued studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles in his hand. Time continued to pass. An hour later. Boom! A deafening roar from afar interrupted Guwen's thoughts once again. What's special about today? Why is there so much commotion? Guwen muttered quietly, sending his divine sense towards the source of the sound. Before long, his expression changed dramatically. Reflected in his pupils was an endless ocean. At this moment, a gigantic fissure appeared in the ocean, continuously expanding. The seawater furiously rushed into the fissure, forming a spectacular waterfall. The deep fissure stretched for miles. Guwen sensed other divine senses being drawn to the ocean fissure and many cultivators heading towards it. The ocean was to the west of the continent. Guwen's divine sense traveled a long way, discovering the fissure extended for tens of thousands of miles and was still growing, seemingly dividing the ocean in two. Strangely, despite the seawater pouring into the fissure, the sea level didn't drop but maintained its majestic sight. Fortunately, the ocean fissure was far from the continent, with a landmass in between. Guwen retracted his divine sense and continued reading, planning to visit Immortal Seeking Island later for information. On Immortal Seeking Island, Guwen could always hear various significant oceanic events. Late at night, Guwen arrived at Nianchu Cave, walking towards the stone table. As soon as his footsteps sounded, 2 fragrances greeted him. Next, his arms were embraced, sinking into softness. "Master!" "Greetings, Master!" 2 enchanting women clung to Guwen's arms, one in a blue dress, the other in a white dress. They had graceful figures and delicate features, gazing at Guwen with eyes like rippling water. They were Tianqing and Tian by after shapeshifting. Guwen, wearing a mask, asked, "What's that smell on you?" Tianqing tilted her head and said, "It's a special water mist made. It gives off a distinctive fragrance, masking our demon scent, so Master won't dislike us." Guwen remained silent, inwardly satisfied. The newly shapeshifted Tianqing and Tianbai indeed had a foul demon scent, which made him reluctant to be close to them before. Allowing them to hold him, Guwen walked towards the small building. The two cat demons chattered nonstop, just like Tian Yao. Soon, Tian Yao emerged from the house, beaming as she approached Guwen, expecting praise. Unfortunately, Guwen didn't mention the fragrance but asked about her cultivation progress. Chapter 227 Immortal King Guwen sat at the stone table, enjoying Tianqing and Tianbei's shoulder and leg massages. He cast his gaze toward Tian Yao, occasionally giving remarks on her limitless freedom step, feeling quite content. Tian Yao felt rather frustrated but had no choice but to listen. After a long while, Guwen finally stopped his pointers to her and said, "Tianqing Nanbai, today I will teach you a divine skill. Do you wish to learn?" Upon hearing this, the two girls immediately nodded, their eyes shining with excitement. Guwen raised his hand, using his index finger to touch their foreheads. In an instant, their bodies stiffened, and a figure practicing divine skills was reflected in their pupils, their postures constantly changing. He imparted the Daoist gang primal energy to them. Tianqing and Tianbai needed many years to master it, which would also help them settle down. During the massages, their hands had been a bit restless, which made Guwen slightly displeased, hence a small punishment. Tian Yao sat down and curiously asked, "Master, what divine skill are you teaching them?" Guwen briefly introduced the Daoist gang primal energy, which piqued Tian Yao's interest, and she began to coquettishly beg him to teach her. Having spent so much time together, Guwen found it hard to refuse Tian Yao's requests, so he nodded in agreement. This made Tian Yao very excited. Her eyes darted around, thinking of something, unable to contain her smile. Once the two cat demons regained their senses, Guwen let them go to practice. As they left, Tian Yao approached again, eagerly leaning her forehead forward with her eyes closed. Seeing her acting like a damsel waiting to be picked, Guwen cursed her as a demon under his breath, then began imparting the divine skill. After teaching the divine skill, while Tian Yao was still immersed in the inherited memories, Guwen began picking medicinal herbs. Tianqing and Tianbai were very restless. Wherever Guwen went, they would practice nearby, constantly chatting with him. It wasn't until dawn that Guwen finally left. As autumn arrived, the weather became slightly cool. Guwen crossed several seas and reached Immortal Seeking Island. Sure enough, news of the ocean rift had already spread across Immortal Seeking Island, and everyone was talking about it. It was said that the rift was still continuously expanding, making it impossible to gauge its length. The width alone reached 100 miles, causing unease, as if the entire mortal world was about to split in two. During this time, Guwen even saw heaven and earth flying immortal approaching the ocean rift, but they were powerless as well. "Senior, I heard a legend. Long ago, the mortal world was submerged by the ocean, countless Daoist traditions perished. When the ocean receded, all beings returned to living on land, and sects sprang up like bamboo shoots after a rain. One of those sects was the Red Dust sect. The sect master of Red Dust sect created the immortal path supreme treasure, divine exotic city, which suppressed the mortal world and achieved the position of immortal king. Before the Red Dust sect master fell, he split the ocean in two, then his body fell and was buried at the bottom of the sea. His realm was unimaginable, and some say it was the power of his bones that cracked the ocean. No one knows if it's true. Hu Shaojian followed beside Guwen, speaking mysteriously. Red Dust sect, divine exotic city? Upon hearing this, Guwen suddenly felt that the ocean rift was related to the Seven Stars spirit realm. The Seven Stars spirit realm first released the divine exotic city, then created the ocean rift. What was their true intention? Help me gather all the legends and records of immortal kings throughout history, Guwen instructed. Previously, the ghost mother of ephemera had sent the 9 Nether 13 evil to deliver the immortal king crown to Guwen. Hidden beneath the crown were the bones and soul of the evil emperor. Guwen buried the immortal king crown at the bottom of a lake in the North Sea and had not touched it since. He originally thought the immortal king was just a title, but now it seemed there were many immortal kings. Hu Xiaojian quickly agreed. Being able to work for Guwen made him feel honored. Having spent so many years with Guwen, he felt fortunate to have someone powerful to rely on. Serving a loose immortal was indeed his blessing. There was an auction on Immortal Seeking Island in a couple of days, and Hu Xiaojian recommended Guwen attend because there was a sapling of a 9th-rank spirit tree. Upon hearing this, Guwen immediately agreed. Half a day later, Guwen left with the sapling of the 9th-rank spirit tree. Some loose immortals attempted to track him but couldn't keep up. Guwen arrived at the Outer World Cave and planted the sapling of the 9th-rank spirit tree. Tree of Luo Hai, 9th rank 56/80,000/500000, 500,000 years maximum lifespan. If he were to kill it now, Guwen could gain 8,000 years of life, but he would not engage in killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. The tree of Luo Hai could form the Luo Tian energy sea, gather spiritual energy, and enhance the growth environment of all things. The Luo Tian energy sea could even bring down spiritual rain, which, it was said, offered a chance for enlightenment from the heavens and earth. This kind of spirit tree made Guwen very excited. In 10,000 years, the Outer World Cave would be fully cultivated. By then, if his old friends were no longer around, he could retreat there for tens of thousands of years. With Tian Yaoer keeping him company, he would never be lonely. Guwen admired the tree of Luo Hai for a long time before leaving. When he returned again, it was already 10 years later. In 10 years, the tree of Luo Hai had grown significantly taller. Tian Yaoer accompanied Guwen, standing by his side, gazing up at the tree of Luo Hai together. In the distance, Tian Qing and Tian Bai were playing around. Guwen had taken them in to serve Tian Yaoer, but since Tian Yaoer was often in seclusion, she rarely disciplined them, leading to their continued innocence and playful nature. 10 years had passed, and Tian Yaoer's cultivation level had reached the 2nd layer of the nascent soul realm. "Master, we've been looking for so long. Shouldn't we leave now?" Tian Yaoer asked softly. Guwen came back to his senses, nodded gently, then took her and left. Tian Yaoer urged him because she didn't want to waste time here. She had a lot she wanted to discuss with Guwen. However, she could sense that Guwen's mood wasn't high. This feeling persisted until Guwen left. Returning to Mystic Valley, Guwen sat at his desk, holding the green hero travelogue, unable to calm his mind. He sighed quietly, feeling very troubled. The reason for his distress was because tonight Yi Lan was going to release the cultivation suppressed by the primordial reincarnation skill. He was already 122 years old, whereas Yi Lan was 117, only 13 years away from the end of her lifespan. He feared that the primordial reincarnation skill might have issues, so he left 13 years as a buffer. Over these years, he had sent countless elixirs to Yi Lan, which should have helped her accumulate a significant amount of cultivation. Guwen thought this, feeling a bit more at ease. He sent his divine sense toward the outer gate city, inside Yi Lan's mansion. Yi Lan was meditating on her bed, practicing her skills. Guwen could feel that her cultivation realm was loosening. He waited until the deep of night. Yi Lan's cultivation was completely released. Guwen had set up many formations in her mansion in advance. Nonetheless, her aura still alerted many people because he couldn't lay formations beyond his apparent abilities grade. More and more people gathered toward Yi Lan's mansion. Fortunately, the outer sect's great elder LV Songhan arrived in time, dispersing the disciples and dispatching subordinates to guard the mansion. This was Guwen's prior arrangement. Guwen could feel that Yi Lan was forming a core, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Until dawn, Yi Lan began forming her nascent soul. This made Guwen secretly shocked. The primordial reincarnation skill was quite domineering. Of course, the reason Yi Lan could break through so quickly was mainly because Guwen had invested a lot of elixirs. The value of those elixirs had already surpassed the accumulation of most nascent soul realm cultivators. After 2 more days, Yi Lan's cultivation finally stabilized. But her commotion had attracted the attention of the inner sect and the main city of the sect. Guwen had no choice but to stand guard at the mansion's entrance. LV Batian flew over. Seeing Guan, he immediately approached him. Facing the sect leader, Guan did not conceal anything. He explained the origin of the Daoist expansion skill and revealed that the reason Yilan's breakthrough caused such a stir was that he had poured all the medicinal herbs he had obtained over the years into elixirs for her. LV Baiyan had heard of the Daoist expansion skill. Wuxin was now a key figure beside Li Xiandao, and the power of the Daoist expansion skill had already spread in the immortal cultivation world. He hadn't expected Guan to be so sentimental. He knew that Guan possessed 3 medicine valleys, and the quantity of medicinal herbs he obtained yearly was immense. That he would pour it all into Yilan was astonishing. I'll handle this. You can wait here in peace, LV Baiyan said, and then signaled to LV Songhan. He had LV Songhan proclaim that a great cultivator at the divinity transformation realm was practicing in the mansion, and no one was to disturb. A foundation establishment realm cultivator reaching the divinity transformation realm in 2 days would indeed cause a huge stir, but if it was a divinity transformation realm cultivator practicing, the impact would be much less. Guan stood and waited in front of the mansion. Until evening, when Yilan's aura calmed, LV Songhan finally led his people away. Guan entered the mansion and walked toward Yilan's room. Standing in front of the door, he waited. "Senior brother, why don't you come in?" Yilan's voice came from inside the room. Guan took a deep breath and pushed the door open. His gaze was immediately drawn to Yilan on the bed. He quickly performed a lifespan detection. Yilan, Divinity Transformation Stage 5th Level 117/600/600, only 600 years of lifespan? Guan frowned, his heart sinking. Yilan opened her eyes, looked at him, and smiled. "Senior brother, I've reached the divinity transformation realm. It's incredible." She was very excited, unaware that her lifespan was only 600 years. In her understanding, living 1,000 years at the divinity transformation realm was not difficult, and she believed her cultivation would grow higher in the future. The primordial reincarnation skill could extend the maximum lifespan but couldn't ensure that the practitioner's lifespan increased with breakthroughs. After all, this skill was meant to defy fate. Guan smiled and said, "Really? That's great, junior sister. You'll have to look after me from now on." Yilan laughed. "The technique is yours. When you release your cultivation, you'll definitely be more powerful than I am." Guan hadn't practiced the primordial reincarnation skill, but hearing her say this, he had no choice but to agree. Yilan got up and sat at the table with Guan, starting to talk about her breakthrough experiences. Guan, meanwhile, pondered how to help Yilan achieve enlightenment. At present, it seemed enlightenment was the best way to extend the maximum lifespan. But how difficult enlightenment was. Chapter 228. The 9,999-year life span limit. Feeling down, Guan looked at the excited Yilan, and his mood gradually improved. No matter what, he at least helped Yilan extend her life by 470 years, and her cultivation progressed from the foundation establishment realm to the divinity transformation realm, making her future life more exciting. With nearly 500 more years of life, perhaps she would have her own opportunities in the future. Guan smiled and occasionally echoed Yilan's words. When Yilan finished speaking, Guan said, "I recommend you go to the inner sect." Yilan nodded. With a face full of yearning she said, "If I cannot progress further in this life, it would not be in vain to experience the world of great cultivators." Since Guan stepped into the room, Yilan had noticed something was off with his expression. Recalling Guan's usual advice, Yilan thought of many possibilities. One thing was certain, her senior brother was very concerned about her lifespan. Yilan did not feel afraid or disappointed. Instead, she felt very content. Without her senior brother's help, she might have been a servant disciple for her whole life, let alone reaching the foundation establishment realm. Everything now seemed like a dream. "If I can only live for a few hundred years, senior brother, you need not regret. If fate allows, we can meet in the next life, right?" Yilan blinked and said with a light laugh. Guan was startled, then laughed. "Yes, if it's meant to be, even reincarnation can't stop it." They talked from the future to the past this time. Guan chose to stay overnight at Yilan's residence and they talked all night without feeling tired. Early the next day, Guan left. Yilan saw him off to the gate. Watching his departing figure, the sense of loss welled up in her heart once again. After her cultivation level rose, she increasingly found her senior brother's demeanor extraordinary. Perhaps her senior brother had already reached a certain stage. After all, he was valued by the sword venerable Fudao. Yilan knew one thing for sure: if it was not just a chance meeting with the sword venerable Fudao, the sword venerable would not have taken action with the Qinghong sword. Guan just wanted to avoid trouble. That's why he hid his relationship with the sword venerable Fudao. Yilan could understand this. Senior brother, I will always be with you for the rest of my life. Yilan smiled, her eyes filled with an expectant smile. The future was far away. She did not want to think about it too much. She just wanted to cherish the present. Putting aside Yilan's matter for the time being, unlike the Daoist expansion skill which could only lift the cultivation constraints once in a lifetime, the primordial reincarnation skill could be repeatedly cultivated. Yilan would continue to suppress her cultivation in the future and release it after hundreds of years, then the ultimate lifespan should be able to increase again, but Guan was not sure if the effect would be the same as the first time lifting the cultivation constraints. Anyway, this was at least a hope. After hundreds of years, Guan's cultivation would also transform, and perhaps he could find the chance to change Yilan's fate against the heavens. Compared to Yilan, Guan was more worried about Xiaochuan. Xiaochuan, this fellow, usually did not work hard on cultivation, and even if the cultivation constraints were lifted, the improvement would be limited, certainly not as good as Yilan. But Xiaochuan had already seen through life and death, without fear of life and death, so Guan was not so regretful. Everyone has their own choice, everyone will experience farewells. Guan was not a stubborn person. If he was powerless, he could only work hard on his cultivation and see the end of the immortal path on behalf of his old friends. This year's summer was not as hot as previous years. In the third medicine valley, Guan went downstairs, looking at the myriad forms of life in the valley, and he had a smile on his face, feeling very good. In the distance, Yu Yingying was instructing an Xian and several female disciples in practicing spells. Although her cultivation level was very low, she understood many spells. The Blood Prison Great Saint was chasing the White Spirit Rat again. The gap between them was very small. Whenever he was about to catch the White Spirit Rat, it always managed to dodge, making him extremely angry and unwilling to stop, so he could only keep chasing. 10 years had passed, and Lu Lingjun had not returned yet. Guan detected through his divine sense that her ascension sect had been preliminarily established, but one of the ascenders had offended an overseas family, and they had an ongoing grudge for several years. Guan just watched the play with no intention of meddling. Although Lu Lingjun had been injured many times, it was not to the extent of life-threatening. It had to be said that ascenders were indeed very tenacious. Even though the enemy was powerful, they had no plans to back down and were prepared to fight to the death, not giving up until justice was served. Xiaochuan came to Guan's side and said, "Senior brother, I just recruited 100 servant disciples. Do you want to take a look?" Over the past 10 years, disciples have constantly established their foundations and left, while new disciples joined, and the total number of disciples had breached 900. Guan, being idle, agreed and nodded. He followed Xiaochuan to the grassy area at the edge of the pavilion area, where 100 servant disciples were waiting, very nervous and whispering to each other. "Will the Valley Master accept us? He should. The head disciple brought us here." This third medicine valley is not simple. It sends out several foundation establishment realm disciples each year to help them become outer sect disciples. I've heard that too. It's said that the Valley Master is the disciple of the sect leader. The most important thing is that the Valley Master is very generous. Some were excited, some were anxious, and some were so nervous that they were shaking all over. When they saw Xiaochuan and Guan approaching, they all shut up. Their gazes fell on Guan and were amazed by his appearance and demeanor. So young, so handsome. Guan's eyes swept over these servant disciples, constantly checking their lifespans. In the past decades, There were no few buried talents among the servant disciples recruited by Xiaochuan, but none had an ultimate lifespan exceeding 1,000 years. Gu En had never focused on cultivating servant disciples, so the master-disciple bond was not close. With one glance, all had ultimate lifespans of 100 or 200 years, occasionally showing up one with over 300 years. Yang Jian, Energy Cultivation Realm 3rd Layer 15/97/9999. Yang Jian? Even true Lord Erlang appeared? And with the same ultimate lifespan as in Hao. Gu En's gaze fixed on Yang Jian, he pointed at Yang Jian and transmitted his voice to Xiaochuan, asking him to call that kid out. Yang Jian wore simple gray clothes, his face slightly black, looking like he had been doing farm work since childhood, but his facial contours were very good. If well-groomed, he would appear handsome. He stood in the crowd, very inconspicuous. Watching Xiaochuan approach, everyone held their breath, both nervous and expectant. Xiaochuan squeezed into the crowd, patted Yang Jian on the shoulder, and asked him to come out. Yang Jian was stunned, and quickly followed, feeling very anxious, afraid that Gu En would find him unpleasant. When he stood in front of Gu En, he heard Gu En ask, "Introduce yourself." Yang Jian came to his senses and hurriedly said, "My name is Yang Jian, from Longhu Town, Su Province. I am 15 years old and my family has 9 members." Before Gu En could speak, Xiaochuan couldn't help but ask, "Yang Jian? Which Yang, which Jian?" Yang Jian scratched his head awkwardly and said, "It's Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods, true Lord Erlang from Journey to the West. I really like these 2 books, so I changed my name to Yang Jian after joining the Supreme Sect. My old name was Yang Xiaohu, which sounded really bad." As soon as he finished speaking, the other servant disciples burst into laughter. Hearing this, Gu En breathed a sigh of relief. "Scared me to death." He really thought this kid was Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods. After all, this nearly 10,000-year ultimate lifespan was too eye-catching. To date, Gu En had encountered 3 people with an ultimate lifespan of 9,999 years, and Hao, the Blood Prison Great Saint, and Yang Jian. He scrutinized Yang Jian, finding his bones peculiar, and his spirit root was a mixed spirit root of the 5 elements, but his bones were unlike ordinary people. This point was hard to detect without reaching the immortal path realm. His bones needed a vast amount of spiritual energy to revive. In other words, if Yang Jian could not awaken his physical body, he was no different from an ordinary servant disciple. Without the lifespan detection, Gu En would not have detected this. If not encountered by Gu En, Yang Jian would likely never have been noticed for his extraordinary traits, as the number of immortals in the Taizong dynasty was few, making it hard for him to come in contact with them. Xiaochuan, with a dark expression, said, "You really know how to name yourself, daring to take the name of true Lord Erlang, who is so divine and handsome?" He also liked the Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West, and had a very good impression of Yang Jian. In the Investiture of the Gods, Gu En included the story of Yang Jian rescuing his mother on Peach Mountain, making Yang Jian's character more complete and raising his popularity to the highest in the Investiture of the Gods, surpassing even Neza. The other servant disciples joined in the teasing, making Yang Jian's face turn red, wanting to find a hole to crawl into. Choosing a new name after embarking on the path of immortal cultivation is also a way to show your ambition. "From now on, you shall be called Yang Jian." Gu En said. With his words, the other disciples dared not laugh anymore. Then, Gu En gave some courteous encouragement and explained some rules of the Medicine Valley, stating that as long as the disciples worked diligently, he was willing to help them establish their foundations and pursue the immortal path. After speaking, Gu En turned and left. He would not accept someone as a disciple based solely on their ultimate lifespan. He would observe Yang Jian's future behavior. If he had good character, Gu En would be willing to help, forming a kind fate. If his character was mean, then he would live his exceptional lifespan in mediocrity. Due to being singled out by Gu En, Yang Jian was pursued by other disciples looking to befriend him, making him feel flattered. He looked at Gu En's departing figure, his eyes full of gratitude. Without Gu En's recognition, his name would have been constantly mocked. He decided secretly that he must perform well and strive to get a foundation establishment pill someday. Back in his room, Guan couldn't help but turn his gaze to Enhao. Compared to Yi Yan, Su Han, and Zhen Qin, Enhao was his true disciple, inheriting his cultivation techniques and ultimate skills. He had always held great expectations for Enhao. Enhao's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the nascent soul realm, and terrifyingly, he was not yet 100 years old. At the moment, Enhao was cultivating on a small island in the ocean, with Qi Jiuxiao and Qi Bei also on the island, guiding him in his cultivation. Both were stunned by Enhao's talent. If they didn't know that Enhao had a mentor at the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, they would have fought to take him as a disciple. Guan noticed that Qi Bai's cultivation level was continuously dropping. It seemed the poison of the immortal swallowing scorpion could not be completely eliminated. He needed to find an opportunity to pass the Yang Wood primordial skills advanced technique to Enhao to prevent Enhao from being surpassed by Li Ya and Zhang Buku. Chapter 229 Yang Jian's longing. With the passing of summer and the arrival of autumn, the third medicine valley gradually became tinged with yellow. Yang Jian came before the blood prison great saint, respectfully presenting a platter filled with flowers and fruits. The blood prison great saint lay on the ground and gave him a casual glance. "Is it washed clean?" he asked indifferently. Yang Jian quickly nodded and whispered, "I washed it 3 times. The blood prison great saint lowered his head to sniff, then said, "Not bad. Keep it up, you may go now." Yang Jian stood up, bowed, and then retreated. Ever since Guan approved his name, he had been more driven than the other disciples. Not only was he busy with chores in the valley, but he also served the blood prison great saint and the white spirit rat diligently. His industriousness made the other servant disciples feel disdainful, so they gradually began to distance themselves from him. Despite this, he did not feel embarrassed but was instead full of anticipation. He knew full well that with his average talent, if he only did what the other disciples did, he would at most earn a single foundation establishment pill. He believed that even if he reached foundation establishment, it wouldn't change his fate. There were many foundation establishment realm disciples in the outer sect who still remained at the bottom. But if he could gain the favor of the Valley Master, that would be entirely different. Lacking aptitude and connections, Guan represented the greatest opportunity in Yang Jian's eyes. He didn't know how to go about pleasing Guan deliberately, so he used his spare time to take care of Guan's mounts and spirit pets. Yang Jian stood at the wooden fence, looking out over the vast expanse of the Medicine Valley's garden. He wiped the sweat from his face, filled with hopes for the future. Being able to join such a Medicine Valley was already very fortunate. Next, he needed to seize this fortune. Days went by one after another. In late autumn, someone came to visit Guan. It was Wu Ju, whom he hadn't seen in many years. Wu Ju, visiting the third Medicine Valley for the first time, was amazed by its grandeur. "I'm looking for Guan," Wu Ju said, grabbing a person. Coincidentally, that person was Yang Jian. Yang Jian was sweeping the ground and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask for your name, Senior? What is your relationship with the Valley Master?" "My name is Wu Ju. Guan and I are brothers. I've been away for many years and came here specifically to see him today," Wu Ju replied. Hearing this, Yang Jian dared not be careless. He asked Wu Ju to wait for a moment and ran all the way to Xiaochuan to report the matter, asking Xiaochuan to make the decision. Xiaochuan then went to Guan's pavilion and relayed the story at the door. In fact, Guan had already sensed Wu Ju's arrival, but since Wu Ju had now cultivated the energy-concealing sorcery, it was hard for him to detect directly. So he waited for his disciples to report it to him. "Bring him over," came Guan's voice from inside the room. Xiaochuan immediately called out to Yang Jian, sending the waiting Yang Jian downstairs on an errand. Just as Yang Jian turned around, Wu Ju suddenly rushed past like a gust of wind, startling him so much that he widened his eyes. He stood there dumbfounded, watching Wu Ju leave a trail of afterimages as he swiftly went upstairs. Even Xiaochuan, who was upstairs, had his hair blown around and stood frozen in place. Wu Ju pushed open the door, saw Guan, and smiled, turning around to close the door behind him. Xiaochuan came to his senses and turned to descend the stairs. Yang Jian was still stunned. It wasn't until Xiaochuan beckoned to him that he finally snapped out of it. He didn't inquire about Wu Ju's identity, but in his heart, a great determination ignited. He also wanted to become a great cultivator like Wu Ju. On the other side, inside the room, Guan poured tea for Wu Ju and listened to him recount his experiences over the years. After sitting down and adjusting his mindset, he used lifespan detection on Wu Ju as if he were about to open a blind box. Wu Ju, Nascent Soul Realm, Level 8 124/890/7600, so many years had passed, but Wu Ju's maximum lifespan had not increased, indicating that he hadn't made any breakthroughs in path enlightenment for decades. Guan felt a bit disappointed. He had hoped that Wu Ju could continue his path enlightenment indefinitely. Of course, with Wu Ju's current talent and status, reaching the Nirvana realm before the age of 7,600 wouldn't be difficult. However, Guan thought it a pity that Wu Ju wouldn't reach the ultimate lifespan limit of 9,999 years. Wu Ju didn't notice any change in Guan's expression and continued to talk excitedly about his experiences over the years. Guan listened attentively. The timid boy from back then had now grown to be a capable individual. Hearing him now also made Guan feel somewhat emotional. After a long time, Wu Ju began to speak about his troubles. The emperor treats me very well and has tried hard to win me over, but my master also treats me exceptionally, training me without reservation. Now, the Zhou family behind my master is not only in conflict with the Taizong dynasty but is also challenging the supreme sect. Wu Ju spoke with a face full of anguish. He had embarked on the immortal cultivation path at the supreme sect, so he had deep feelings for it. When the Zhou family left the supreme sect, it made things difficult for him. Hence, he chose to serve Li Xiandao to avoid the disputes. But now, with the Zhou family supporting the great Jiang dynasty, a three-way war was imminent, and he faced another decision. This time, he had returned to seek Guan's opinion. After hearing this, Guan also felt troubled. Repaying a debt of gratitude was always the hardest. He pondered for a moment and then asked, "Who do you think is the most important?" Wu Ju was silent for a moment before he replied, "In my heart, the supreme sect is definitely the most important. Whether it is my master or the emperor, they chose me only after I had grown up. Without the supreme sect, I wouldn't have met them." He raised his eyes to look at Guan, his gaze gradually becoming resolute. Guan smiled and said, "Since you can make a choice, I won't say more. Regardless of your decision, I will support you." Wu Ju felt a smile spread across his face and sighed, "I have to consider how to face them in the future. It's simple. Don't become their enemy. Support the supreme sect unilaterally. There are many ways to repay them, you don't have to follow orders blindly," Guan reassured him. Wu Ju nodded, then took out various treasures from his storage bag, placing them on the table. This is the Demon Extermination Elixir, which can prevent the birth of inner demons. This is the Sleeve Gold Sword Array. Though small, it can form a large sword array once infused with spiritual power. This is the Substitute Mouth Cricket. It's of no practical use but can speak for you and serve as entertainment. And this top-grade Dharma artifact Mist Cloud Boots allows you to create clouds under your feet and soar through the skies. It was a reward from the emperor for slaying the enemy's general. Wu Ju introduced the treasures one by one. There were 8 in total, each with different uses. After he finished speaking, Guan pretended to decline, but Wu Ju insisted, saying he had received many elixirs from Guan in the past and had to pay him back. After several refusals, Wu Ju glared and said, "Are we not brothers? You must accept these or we can't be brothers anymore." Guan had no choice but to agree reluctantly. "Next time you visit, don't bring so many things. I don't need them, and our bond can't be measured by treasures," Guan said seriously. He genuinely didn't want them and hoped Wu Ju wouldn't go to so much trouble. Wu Ju waved his hand and said, "I don't care. When I see good things, I think of you. Since you don't venture out and only focus on cultivation, I'll find you all the magic artifacts and secret books you need." Guan smiled and didn't continue the topic. It wasn't until dusk that Wu Ju left, having made up his mind to choose the supreme sect. He intended to see the sect leader next. Guan stood on the balcony, watching the direction in which Wu Ju departed. The sunset was beautiful, even nearing twilight. Guan saw Yang Jian staring blankly in the direction Wu Ju had gone. During this time, Yang Jian's performance had been commendable, and in Guan's eyes, he was already halfway towards becoming a disciple. In the future, if Yang Jian became famous and even surpassed Wu Ju, would Wu Ju remember that the minor cultivator who led the way for him today was the renowned Yang Jian? Guan found the thought amusing, and a smile appeared on his lips. He noticed that he was developing a mischievous habit of imagining the astonishment of those around him. In the blink of an eye, 5 more years passed. During these 5 years, and Hao broke through to the divinity transformation realm, and Wu Ju reached the 9th level of the nascent soul realm, on the verge of a breakthrough. Since Wu Ju had decided to stay in the Supreme Sect, he hadn't left the Supreme Sect. After expressing his intentions to LV Bayin was very pleased and began investing substantial resources in him, creating momentum for him. Now, Wu Ju was one of the top 3 talents in the Supreme Sect, holding the position of a true disciple. 127-year-old Guan had a lifespan nearing 16,400,000 years, still far from the billion mark, but he hadn't harvested the high-rank medical herbs from the outer world cave yet. He was eagerly looking forward to those high-rank medical herbs. Throughout these years, Guan occasionally went to Immortal Seeking Island to buy high-rank medical herbs. The number of 7th-order medicinal herbs planted in the outer world cave had exceeded 100,000, and the number of 8th-order medicinal herbs surpassed 10,000. Once all these herbs matured, harvesting them would significantly extend his lifespan. On this day, Guan had just returned from Immortal Seeking Island. He walked into the 3rd Medicine Valley with a slight frown. Recently, more and more loose immortals had been eyeing him, so he needed to consider purchasing medicinal herbs from other islands. The price of a single 7th-order medicinal herb was astronomical. Guan's extensive purchases at Immortal Seeking Island had made him one of their top 10 clients, naturally drawing envy. As Guan passed by the Blood Prison Great Saint, he saw Yang Jian standing nearby, washing the Blood Prison Great Saint. He said, "Don't spoil him. He spends his days lazing around, only knowing how to eat and sleep." Yang Jian quickly responded, "It's fine. I don't have anything to do anyway." Guan said no more and quickly went upstairs. The Blood Prison Great Saint, thinking he had upset Guan, quietly said, "Yang Jian, come here." Hearing this, Yang Jian hurried over and squatted in front of him. "Come find me at midnight tonight. I'll teach you a spell," the Blood Prison Great Saint said mysteriously. Yang Jian's expression became strange. "There's no need. I'm not taking care of you for any benefit," he said. What he desired was Guan's favor. What kind of spell could a bull demon teach him? "I don't care. You must come," the Blood Prison Great Saint demanded, and Yang Jian had no choice but to agree. He stood up and left, glancing towards the pavilion where Guan resided. If only it were his master teaching him a spell instead. Inside the room, after sitting down, Guan spread his divine sense, looking towards the ocean trench to the east. This great trench had ceased to extend but still existed across the ocean, frequently drawing great cultivators to observe. Guan sensed the presence of an entity surpassing the wandering immortal realm flying above the ocean trench. The individual displayed their aura recklessly, drawing many divine senses to probe. Chapter 230, Sect Leader's Successor. Guan looked for a while and then withdrew his gaze. Without knowing the other party's intentions, he didn't want to provoke them. The ocean trench had been around for many years without any disaster so far. Guan hoped this tranquility could last long enough to give him time to grow. He picked up the latest volume of the Green Hero Travelogue from the table and started reading. This book was sent by Xianxia, and he had already read it several times. Each reading gave him a different flavor. Xianxia seemed flamboyant and unrestrained, but he was actually meticulous and skilled in writing about women. Night fell. Yang Jian came to the blood prison great saint's side, wanting to say something but hesitating. The blood prison great saint stood up and, with a twist of his ox-like but, dropped a line before leaving, "Follow me." Yang Jian had no choice but to follow. Well, maybe by appeasing it, it will mess with me less in the future, Yang Jian thought silently, his mood improving. The man and ox arrived in a forest a dozen miles away. The forest was vast, echoing with the sounds of insects. The blood prison great saint turned around to face Yang Jian, then started cultivating energy. In an instant, his red ox hair began to flow like burning blood flames, and a fierce aura erupted from his body. Ha! Yang Jian's eyes widened, his whole being becoming alert. This aura, could this lazy ox really know spells? The blood prison great saint let out a deep ox roar, making Yang Jian feel an explosion by his ear, his brain buzzing. It took him a while to recover, looking at the blood prison great saint in horror. The great saint still maintained his aura, looking especially menacing in the night. Yang Jian's gaze towards the blood prison great saint became fervent. The blood prison great saint raised his ox head and said, "This is a spell of the blood prison divine skill called the blood prison roar. If you train to a minor achievement realm, it can cause the enemy's divine soul to become unsettled in battle. If perfected, it could kill enemies with a roar." So powerful? I want to learn. I want to learn. Yang Jian felt ignited, the image of the blood prison great saint completely transforming in his eyes. The blood prison great saint, full of pride, said, "Cultivating the blood prison roar isn't easy. Are you ready for hardship?" "I'm not afraid of hardship," Yang Jian said firmly. The blood prison great saint grinned. Under Gu En's divine sense, he found an ox smiling to be quite eerie. This guy didn't have any ill intentions, right? Autumn and winter passed, and the new spring arrived. The Third Medicine Valley began preparing for the spring festival once again. On this day, Wuju arrived, but Gu En wasn't there, so he wandered around the valley. He saw the minor cultivator who had previously guided him carrying water, so he walked over and asked with a smile, "Little brother, aren't you a cultivator? Why are you carrying water yourself?" Yang Jian's eyes lit up when he saw Wuju. He hadn't forgotten Wuju's movement technique from that day, ethereal like an immortal. He replied, "This is a form of cultivation method." His voice was hoarse, speaking haltingly, making Wuju uncomfortable to listen to. "What happened to your voice?" Wuju asked with a frown. Yang Jian answered, "From the practicing." Wuju shook his head with a smile, patted Yang Jian on the shoulder, and turned to leave. The reason Wuju remembered Yang Jian was that before leaving last time, Guan had asked him about his thoughts on Yang Jian. Being remembered by Guan, he naturally developed a bit of interest in Yang Jian. But now it seemed, this boy's talent was quite mediocre, with almost no advancement in cultivation over the years. Yang Jian didn't know what Wuju was thinking. Just being asked by him already made him very happy. Wuju continued wandering in the valley. An hour later he sensed Gu En's aura. But when he turned his head, he frowned. There were actually two women beside Guan. Why isn't it Miss Xin? Wuju wondered. He always thought Guan and Xinjun liked each other, but now seeing Guan chatting and laughing with two women beside him, he felt upset. Brother Gu was letting down Miss Shen. Guan with Yi Lan and Jin Qin flew in. The two women were curious about the scene in the Third Medicine Valley, constantly asking questions, and he answered with a smile. After landing, Wuju approached, pointing at Jin Qin and asked, "Guan, who is this?" His tone was sharp, making Jin Qin look at him in confusion. He knew Yi Lan, Gu En's junior sister, but seeing Jin Qin clinging to Gu En's arm made him feel uneasy. Jin Qin's eyes lit up and said, "Are you Wuju?" Yi Lan nodded and said, "Yes, he is the true disciple who has recently become famous in the Supreme Sect, Wuju." Seeing Wuju, she felt very emotional. At the Golden List conference, she met Wuju through Guan. Back then, Wuju surprised her, but she didn't expect him to achieve so much today. Why did geniuses always appear around senior brother? Guan smiled and said, "This is my disciple, Jin Qin. Let's go inside and talk." Hearing this, Wuju's expression softened. "When is Miss Shen coming?" Wuju asked. He always believed that Guan and Xinzhen were meant to be together. Guan casually replied, "How would I know when she will come?" Hearing this, Zhen Qin's eyes darted between Guan and Wu Ju, thinking about something. The four of them headed towards the pavilion, Zhen Qin continuously asking Wu Ju questions enthusiastically, making Wu Ju a bit shy. Before they reached the pavilion, a figure flew in quickly. Guan silently thought, "Oh no. Miss Shen." Wu Ju called out excitedly and waved at Xinzhen. Yi Lan and Zhen Qin looked toward Xinzhen. She wore a white dress with a veil on her face, looking like a celestial being with an outstanding temperament. Xinzhen landed beside Zhen Qin and smiled, "Wu Ju, long time no see." She was often in seclusion and didn't know about Wu Ju's reputation over the years. She looked at Yi Lan and Zhen Qin, full of curiosity. Guan pretended to be calm and began introducing them to each other. The three women exchanged pleasantries, creating a harmonious atmosphere, but Guan could feel the undercurrent. "I didn't expect it, Guan, you have so many female confidants?" Yu Yingying suddenly approached, asking excitedly. Wu Ju's loud voice had drawn her attention. Seeing the three women surrounding Guan and chatting, while Wu Ju maintained a polite distance, she felt there was a good show to watch. Guan turned black-faced and said, "Don't talk nonsense." Yi Lan looked at Yu Yingying and asked, "Who is this?" So senior brother's previous jokes were true. Many female disciples in the valley liked him. Yu Yingying, working for Guan, Yu Yingying said with a smile. No one believed her, as how could an errand girl call the valley master by name? Yu Yingying continued, "I forgot to tell you, Senior Lu should be coming back for the festival." Guan kept a straight face and said, "Let her come back if she wants to." Yi Lan squinted her eyes and asked, "Is Senior Lu a man or woman?" Yu Yingying said, "A woman, Lu Lingjun. You should have heard of her. She's a great cultivator in the mystic heart realm." Yi Lan and Zhen Qin's faces changed. They had indeed heard of Lu Lingjun, but didn't expect her to be connected with Guan. Xinzhen's eyes curved in a smile, looking appreciatively at Yu Yingying. "What a talent! I like her." Guan took Yi Lan's hand and walked towards the pavilion, saying, "My junior sister is here for the first time, I need to attend to her." Yi Lan's face blushed, Zhen Qin hurriedly followed, feeling victorious. She proudly gave Yu Yingying a challenging look. Yu Yingying glared at Zhen Qin before turning to leave. Shenzhen tacitly followed suit without a word. Wu Ju stood in place, watching the backs of the three women. After thinking it over, he decided not to follow them. If they really start fighting, he would step in to protect Guan. No wonder Brother Gu doesn't cultivate, too busy tending to his peach blossoms. Indeed, Master is right. Women are obstacles on the immortal cultivation path, they are inner demons. Wu Ju shook his head and continued strolling through the valley. Upstairs in the room, Guan poured tea for the three women. Yi Lan started chatting with Xinzhen. Having worked in the law enforcement hall for many years, she was adept at handling people and situations, making the conversation lively and pleasant among the three women, appearing like close friends. After Guan sat down, Xinzhen asked, "After Journey to the West, will you write another book? I want to read about Sun Wukong becoming the victorious fighting Buddha." Yi Lan and Zhen Qin already knew Guan was Panin, but still looked at him curiously, eager for his answer. Zhen Qin looked at Guan, marveling inwardly. Her master's cultivation talent might be mediocre, but his writing was extraordinary. By now, more and more people knew Guan was the author, so he didn't mind Xinzhen revealing his identity intentionally. After all, his apparent cultivation level was no longer weak, and he could defend himself. No more writing, busy researching other minor arts. Guan answered casually. Shenzhen felt a bit disappointed and began praising Journey to the West, saying it was better than the investiture of the gods and more meaningful. She felt Journey to the West was critiquing something. Yi Lan also joined in the discussion about Journey to the West, while Zhen Qin gazed at Guan with admiration, realizing its impact had even surpassed the investiture of the gods. An hour later, another guest arrived at the valley, freeing Guan somewhat. LV Beiyin. LV Beiyin entered the room, and Yi Lan and Zhen Qin quickly stood up to greet him. They were already true disciples and had naturally met LV Baiyan before. Shenzhen also greeted LV Baiyan courteously. You all go out and have a look around. I have something to discuss with Guwen, LV Baiyan said indifferently, but he laughed inwardly. This kid was impressive, having so many peach blossoms, not inferior to my younger days. Zhen Qin couldn't help but curiously ask, Sect leader, are you very familiar with my master? LV Baiyan looked at her, knowing she was Guwen's disciple, then laughed, Of course. He is my appointed successor to the sect leader. During the Golden List Conference, the world's #1 Sword Dao tournament, the Alchemy Conference, and so on, it was all his idea. From now on, you can call me Martial Master. Upon hearing this, the three women widened their eyes. Guwen silently thought this is bad. Shenzhen also felt surprised. She knew Guwen was close with LV Baiyan, thinking it was because of Pan N's identity. She didn't expect LV Baiyan to hold Guwen in such high regard. Seeing Guwen's expression, LV Baiyan was amused and said, Never mind, you all stay and listen. The three women quickly thanked him. Their gazes towards Guwen made him uneasy. Chapter 231. The world-destroying catastrophe is coming. LV Baiyan sat down, then began to ask Guwen about what kind of event to hold next to make it more attractive. Yi Lan, Zhen Qin, and Shenzhen stood by, listening. They were also curious about how Guwen strategized for LV Baiyan. Guwen pondered and said, The Supreme Sect has already held numerous events. Although the types are changing for the vast majority of disciples, there isn't much participation. Other sects have started to imitate us, making it hard to increase our influence no matter what kind of event we hold. LV Baiyan nodded, troubled by this situation himself. Other sects were not fools. Seeing the Supreme Sect to profit, they also began to hold similar events. Especially with Xianxia sect joining, cultivators across the land flocked to them, significantly reducing the Supreme Sect's appeal. To this day, Xianxia sect remained the top sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Shenzhen also fell into deep thought. Although the Great Yu dynasty was no more, the Dao Tian sect remained. Now, having established close ties with the Supreme Sect, the better the Supreme Sect's development, the more it benefited Dao Tian sect. Guwen continued, Actually, we're in the best position. We have 2 Mahayana realm cultivators and the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao. On this point, Xianxia sect cannot compete. If you want to surpass Xianxia sect, why not hold a Tianbang tournament? No age limit, no cultivation realm limit, combat to determine the top 100 ranks. As long as we announce it, the world's cultivators will be shaken. Sects that don't dare participate will only be ridiculed. If Xianxia sect doesn't dare to participate, they will be deemed weaker than our Supreme Sect in the eyes of the world's cultivators. If they participate, then let it be a normal competition to see if their Daoist lord can defeat Senior Xian and Senior Qiao. LV Baiyan's eyes lit up upon hearing this, but he still hesitated, saying, Mahayana realm combat, if it gets intense, how do we control it? Guwen thought for a moment and said, How about holding it in the outer sect? We can use Sword Venerable to deter them. LV Baiyan frowned, still hesitant. The Supreme Sect's high-level members also had reservations about Sword Venerable. They didn't know what Sword Venerable's intentions were or his origins. Previously, they fantasized that Sword Venerable was an ascetic trained by the Supreme Sect, hiding his cultivation level, unknown to anyone. But as immortals continued to appear in their vision, they realized that the Supreme Sect's soil couldn't nurture such an existence. Sword Venerable was simply too powerful, forcing them to recognize reality. If the sect leader fears angering Sword Venerable, we can allocate part of the Tianbang tournament's proceeds to the Heavenly Repair Platform as a tribute to Sword Venerable, showing our sincerity, Guwen suggested. LV Baiyan hesitated and asked, Is that all right? Guwen continued, You can inquire in front of the heaven-cutting axe. Sword Venerable is an immortal. He will surely hear you. As long as you explain the stakes clearly, he should tacitly allow it. After the Tianbang tournament is held, as long as the Supreme Sect cultivators retain the top position, Other sects won't be able to host their own Tianbang tournaments, since only the top sect in the world has the qualification to host it. If Tsangtian sect cannot secure the top position, their morale will also suffer. Like the previous Golden List tournament, the Tianbang must be recorded. It's best to distribute it to the world's cultivators without charging spirit stone fees, to spread its influence first. The second Tianbang tournament can then collect spirit stone fees for profit. As long as the Supreme Sect made this announcement, the matter would be settled. Throughout history, no sect dared to do it despite thinking of it. Gathering the world's top cultivators within their sect to compete for supremacy could easily spiral out of control, possibly leading to total destruction. The Supreme Sect was different, as they had the balance-breaking existence of Sword Venerable Fudao. Shenzhen couldn't help but say, "This plan is indeed devious. No sect in the world can refuse. Even if they know they can't secure the top position, they have to participate." The more LV Batian thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. As long as the Supreme Sect secured the top spot, they could still attract great cultivators in the future. What if cultivators from the Holy Land or overseas participate? What do we do then? LV Batian hesitantly asked. Guan smiled and said, "Wouldn't that further prove the Supreme Sect's influence? Even cultivators from the Holy Land couldn't resist participating. As long as our people's ranks are the highest within the three-dynasty immortal cultivation world, that'll be sufficient." LV Batian found it reasonable and began to discuss the specific details with Gu when mere slogans wouldn't suffice. There had to be tangible benefits to attract more cultivators to participate. Yilan watched Guan and LV Batian discuss matters involving the world's great trends. She felt sentimental. As expected, her senior brother was destined not to be an ordinary person. Zhen Qin, on the other hand, didn't think much. She was already fantasizing about the Tianbang tournament. Who wouldn't want to be the world's number one? Though she had no qualification to compete, she still wanted to know who was the number one in the immortal cultivation world. An ancient hour later, LV Batian hurriedly left, not even celebrating the new year. Guan took the three women downstairs to enjoy the New Year's atmosphere with the disciples. The disciples in the Medicine Valley even set up a market, making it very lively. As dusk approached, Lu Lingjun returned. The gap in cultivation between her and Yi Lan and the other two women was vast, so there was no conflict. Distracted, she paid no attention to their relationship with Guan. Guan first went back to Mystic Valley, drank with the disciples, and returned to the third Medicine Valley to continue celebrating with the others. The next morning, guests left, and the disciples resumed their busy routines. Lu Lingjun also left Medicine Valley, flying towards the main city of the sect. One night, several days later, Guan saw LV Batian leading several dozen members of the Hall of Elders to the heaven-cutting axe. They set up a formation to prevent other disciples and cultivators on the platform from hearing them. After explaining the Tianbang tournament, the heaven-cutting axe remained silent, and they took this as Sword Venerable Fudao's tacit approval. Guan had already begun to look forward to the benefits the Tianbang tournament could bring. He could buy many high-rank medicinal herbs. The second morning, Gu Zong brought a large group of cultivators to find Lu Lingjun. These cultivators had a minimum cultivation level of Void-Crossing Realm, numbering over 100. Lu Lingjun immediately took this group of disciples southward. Gu Zong exchanged pleasantries with Guan before leaving. Guan didn't ask what Lu Lingjun was up to. There's no need to guess. It's obvious it was about overseas ascenders. 1 month later, the Supreme Sect announced the Tianbang tournament, and notices about the tournament quickly covered every city in the immortal cultivation world. At the same time, LV Batian sent out invitations to various sects, acting first and reporting later. The world was shaken. The higher-ups of the various sects cursed the Supreme Sect's shamelessness, but the lower and middle-level cultivators were exhilarated. Many were curious, aside from Sword Venerable Fudao, who was truly the world's number one. Sword Venerable, being too powerful, was considered an outsider by the cultivators of the three dynasties. The local world's number one had never been definitively determined. When Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint into the outer city, the disciples passing by discussed this matter excitedly. Yang Jian, who was following beside the blood prison great saint, also felt his blood boiling. He wondered if he would ever have a chance to be on the Tianbang in this lifetime. Throughout the journey, Yang Jian saw Guan greeting people frequently. He knew many, including cultivators with their subordinates, which made Yang Jian admire Guan even more. This morning, Guan had Xiaochuan send word to Yang Jian, saying he would take him to the outer gate city, thrilling him. It meant Guan was truly accepting him. Not just him, other servant disciples also thought so, which led to many imitating him, gathering around the white spirit rat, leaving an Xen helpless. Yang Jian, are you willing to truly become my disciple? Guan suddenly asked, making the daydreaming Yang Jian freeze. He asked reflexively, what? Guan glanced at him, giving him a fright that drenched him in cold sweat. Fool, the master is asking if you are willing to truly become his disciple. The blood prison great saint said mockingly. It was his way of caring for Yang Jian. Yang Jian had served him for 5 years, so he naturally had a liking for him and wanted to help him. Others might not know Guan's true cultivation level, but the blood prison great saint knew very well. The strongest person in the supreme sect was Guan. He even suspected that the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao was Guan. Ah? I am willing. I am willing. Master, please accept my bow. Yang Jian was overjoyed and knelt in the street. The passing disciples all looked at him with strange expressions. Guan didn't feel embarrassed, accepting his bow. After he kowtowed 3 times, he let him up. The blood prison great saint continued forward, and Yang Jian followed closely, trembling with excitement. He had been in the 3rd Medicine Valley for 5 years. In his mind, Guan was highly esteemed. Although Guan seemed to only be at the core formation realm, there were actually mystic heart realm great cultivators hidden in the valley, leading him to imagine many things. The blood prison great saint glanced at the trembling Yang Jian, feeling a bit sour. But this kid seemed unremarkable and extremely ordinary. This kind of person could be Guan's disciple, while he, an invincible ascender in the mortal world, could only be a mount. The blood prison great saint felt conflicting emotions. If he hadn't been so reckless when he first ascended, hadn't hunted down Li Ya and Zhang Buku, he wouldn't have ended up like this. But then he thought, if not for those incidents, even after 1,000 years of cultivation, he might not have encountered a great cultivator like Guan. Even if he did, he would probably be killed. He considered it a blessing in disguise. He can have many disciples, but if I am his only mount, it would be different, the blood prison great saint thought, getting excited again. As the saying goes, beating a dog depends on the owner's face. Spit. Disciples eventually graduate, but a mount is a lifelong bond. Even if Guan freed him 1,000 years later, he would pledge loyalty, saying he would always be Guan's mount. He wanted Guan to be his backing in the great heavenly spirit land. The more the blood prison great saint thought about it, the more excited he became. His ox body began to tremble. Guan looked down at him and then at Yang Jian. He suddenly worried that Yang Jian might be led astray by the blood prison great saint, as his mind didn't seem stable. Just then, a shabbily dressed old man stopped the blood prison great saint. He looked at Guan, his eyes wide, rambling. The mortal disaster is coming, the ocean will engulf everything, the apocalypse is nearing. The blood prison great saint stopped, eyeing him suspiciously. Yang Jian also glanced at him, drawn by his words. The old man finished speaking, turned, and stopped other passing cultivators, saying the same things. Chapter 232. First Heaven's pride. Watching the old man crazily preach about the apocalypse, the cultivators passing by on the street couldn't help but discuss, most of them not taking it seriously, just curious about where this old man came from to dare be so presumptuous at the supreme sect. Guan remained half skeptical. The ocean would swallow everything? He had heard such legends before. On the ocean, these kinds of legends were not uncommon. Moreover, in recent years, a large rift had mysteriously appeared on the ocean, making it hard for him not to believe. I am only 127 years old, why so much hardship? Guan thought helplessly, But the previous demon calamity was not a disaster for the mortal world, just a scheme by the immortal cultivation forces, and such things were by no means rare in this world. This time, he hoped the ocean calamity wasn't targeting him or the Three Dynasties' lands. If that's the case, he would have to think more, wondering if the heavenly Dao was scheming against him. Indeed, he shouldn't get too involved in the mortal world. Could his way of crazily growing stronger without crossing tribulations be seen as an anomaly by the heavenly Dao? To eliminate an anomaly without knowing where it is, it simply launches an apocalypse. For all beings, a calamity is a catastrophe, but for heaven and earth itself, it's just a major cleansing. Lost in thought, Guan soon saw that old man being seized by a disciple of the law enforcement hall, still shouting as he was taken away, "The ocean will swallow everything." This small episode didn't stay in many people's minds. Compared to such crazy talk, the disciples were more concerned about the heavenly rankings tournament. The title of #1 in the world stirred the hearts of countless cultivators. Guan wasn't too worried either. This old man didn't have an extraordinary limit to his lifespan, nor did he hide his realm. He was merely at foundation establishment realm cultivation level. He brought Yang Jian to the elixir hall, instructing him to observe carefully and listen, as he might help him with tasks in the future. This made Yang Jian both excited and nervous, worried about making mistakes and disappointing Guan. It wasn't until evening that they finally returned to the Medicine Valley. Spring passed and summer came, and Guan crossed the threshold of 128 years old. The Heavenly Rankings tournament had already spread throughout the world, but the exact start time was not yet determined. With the operation of the Supreme Sect, over 90% of the cultivators in the lands of the Three Dynasties knew about it. Who is #1 in the world became a hot topic for cultivators during their leisure time. On this day, Guan came to the Immortal Seeking Island. As soon as he arrived, he heard someone discussing the millennial Great Sea Tide. Legend has it that once every millennia, the ocean will rise and flood land masses, lasting for hundreds of years before it subsides. Not every great sea tide is the same. In severe cases, it could flood the entire mortal world, a phenomenon that happens once in a million years. Today's cultivators couldn't calculate how far it had been since the last apocalypse-level sea tide, but precisely because they couldn't calculate it, they were in a state of panic. Everywhere on the ocean, people were proclaiming that the apocalypse-level sea tide was imminent. These people came from different sects, claiming to have sensed the world's omens and saw the apocalyptic visions in their dreams while cultivating. Weaker cultivators might even undergo deviation and become insane. Some even linked it to the oceanic rift that appeared before, suggesting it might be a sign of the apocalypse-level sea tide. When Guan found Hu Shaojian also brought up the matter, his face full of worry. The world is truly in chaos now. First, there was the conflict between the Seven Stars Spirit Realm and the Star Sea congregations, battles occurring everywhere. Now, there's an imminent apocalypse-level sea tide. We truly live in the worst of times, Hu Shaojian sighed. Guan comforted, "Nothing is certain yet, don't overthink." Though the news was spreading widely, the sea level hadn't risen, at least not affecting the mainland of the Three Dynasties' lands. According to legend, before an apocalypse-level sea tide erupts, there would be a build-up period of hundreds of years that all living beings in the mortal world can sense. It said that during this period, the spiritual energy of the sea would burst forth, enriching the entire world's spiritual energy, accelerating the cultivation speed of all beings, as if a small mercy from heaven and earth. If one could leave this world during this period, they could escape the calamity. But that's only applicable to high-level cultivators. To achieve heaven and earth flying immortal within those few hundred years, one would at least need to be at the wandering immortal realm. Guan and Hu Shaojian wandered the streets, chatting as they walked. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them, a woman in yellow attire, her demeanor dignified with an extraordinary aura, and her appearance also top-notch. Her cultivation level reached the mystic heart realm. "May I ask if you are Senior Meng Lang? My lord wishes to invite you as a guest." "My lord is Sage Tang Hai," the woman in yellow said respectfully. Using a mystic heart realm female cultivator as a maid? Such a grand gesture. As Guan was thinking, Hu Xiaojian quietly introduced, Sage Tang Hai is an honorary elder of the Sea Protection Mansion on Immortal Seeking Island, known for his righteous actions and good reputation. The implication was that he could be trusted. Guan glanced at Hu Xiaojian before looking at the woman in yellow and said, "Lead the way." He cast a lifespan detection on the woman in yellow. With a lifespan limit just over 2,000, she would be considered a girl of heavenly pride on the mainland, only to be a maid on Immortal Seeking Island. The woman in yellow gracefully bowed and then turned to lead the way. Half an hour later, they entered a mansion. Hu Xiaojian chose not to go inside, waiting at the gate instead. Tang Hai Mansion was large, with many servants whose lowest cultivation level was at the nascent soul realm. Led by the woman in yellow, Guan arrived at a courtyard where he saw a man in blue attire sitting at a table, sipping tea, with a scholarly and elegant air. Sage Tang Hai, Loose Immortal Realm 5th Layer 8908/27000/27500. The woman in yellow stopped her steps, bowed to Sage Tang Hai, and then left. Sage Tang Hai looked at Guan and stood up to clasp his fists in salute. "Daoist friend, I apologize if my invitation disturbs you." Guan approached the table, raising his hand in return salute. "No worries, I have nothing much to do anyway." Then, both of them sat down and began to chat. After some casual conversation, Sage Tang Hai finally said, "Daoist friend, the number of heavenly materials and earthly treasures you've purchased over the years is staggering, and many people are inquiring about you. But rest assured, no one dares to cause trouble on Immortal Seeking Island. I've also helped you block some of them." Guan didn't understand his meaning and could only follow along, thanking him. The strongest on Immortal Seeking Island had only the cultivation level of Wandering Immortal Realm. Guan didn't really regard anyone there seriously. Recently, the news of the apocalypse level sea tide has been rampant. Whether it's true or not, the world is in turmoil. If we cultivators can band together for warmth, that would be the best. 10 years from now, I plan to hold a private auction here, even offering an immortal path spirit tree. If Daoist friend is interested, you can attend it. The actual trading price will count 70% of the final transaction price. Consider it my gift to Daoist friend as a meeting token, Sage Tang Hai said, stroking his beard with a smile that gave a comforting feeling like a spring breeze. Guan heard this and smiled, thanking him again. An immortal path spirit tree? He was indeed very interested. The highest grade spirit tree he had was only of the 9th rank. He couldn't imagine what wonders an immortal path spirit tree would hold. Seeing Guan agree, Sage Tang Hai became more enthusiastic. The two chatted for a long time, with Sage Tang Hai revealing his desire to form a small circle of loose immortals, to explore and venture into the ancient Immortal Path's secret realm together. After a full hour, Guan finally left Tang Hai Mansion. Hu Xiaojian followed without saying a word. The first wisp of autumn breeze blew into the 3rd Medicine Valley. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, staring blankly at the pavilion where Guan lived. It had been a while since he apprenticed under Guan, yet nothing in his life had changed. Guan hadn't taught him any cultivation techniques or spells, causing him some agony. He was already 21 years old, and his cultivation remained at the 3rd layer of the energy cultivation realm, making him very anxious. He heard that the number 1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao, had already reached the Foundation Establishment realm at his age. Time passed as he daydreamed. As dusk fell, Yang Jian washed a batch of fruits and carried them on a large wooden tray to the Blood Prison Great Saint's side. Just as he was about to leave, a voice came from the pavilion, "Jian'er, wait for me downstairs after nightfall." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian became excited, quickly bowing to the pavilion. He didn't shout loudly, fearing other disciples might hear. An hour later, wearing clean clothes, Yang Jian stood in front of the stairs, his eyes occasionally glancing towards the window upstairs. Blood Prison Great Saint found it amusing, teasing him now and then, making him blush, not knowing how to respond. Suddenly, the door upstairs opened, and Yang Jian immediately stood straight. Guwen descended the stairs and headed towards the transmission array platform. Yang Jian quickly followed, and Blood Prison Great Saint also trailed behind. The two of them, along with the ox, used the teleportation array to reach the Mystic Valley and then headed towards the deserted mountains and forests. Seeing Guwen riding on the ox's back, Yang Jian felt very nervous. He wanted to ask his master when he would teach him cultivation techniques, but was afraid of being rude. They walked through the night. By dawn, Yang Jian was in a daze. Guwen made Blood Prison Great Saint stop. Beside them was a large river, the water so clear that they could see small fish and crabs. Guwen looked at the rising sun and asked, "Jianer, do you wish for superior cultivation techniques?" Yang Jian awkwardly scratched his head and said, "If such exists, I naturally want it." Guwen didn't dislike his utilitarian nature. He looked at Yang Jian and asked, "What are you willing to sacrifice for immortal cultivation?" He planned to nurture Yang Jian well and keep him close, a treatment even in Hao didn't receive. Yang Jian was stunned for a moment and said, "I have nothing, but I desire only immortal cultivation, even if it costs my life." Guwen said calmly, "Your root and bones are special, making energy absorption difficult. You should feel it too." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face instantly darkened. His aptitude was not merely humble, even in the Third Medicine Valley, it was considered low tier. After many years in the valley, he hadn't even broken through a single minor stage, which made him yearn even more for higher-level cultivation techniques. "I can transform you into a genius, but you must endure unimaginable pain, perhaps even facing physical destruction. Are you willing?" Guwen fixed his gaze on Yang Jian, his tone indifferent. Facing his master's gaze, Yang Jian felt inexplicably flustered. "Master, are you scaring your disciple?" Yang Jian asked cautiously. Physical destruction sounded terrifying. Guwen said, "Changing one's fate against the heavens isn't easy. If you fear, I won't force you. I will still teach you appropriate cultivation techniques and spells, but your path will progress slowly." Yang Jian asked, "Master, has any other senior brother or sister succeeded?" Guwen shook his head and said, "I've truly taken only 2 disciples. The others are just given elixirs, and your senior brother is already a world-renowned genius." "World-renowned?" Yang Jian opened his mouth, filled with confusion. Isn't the master at the core formation realm? How does he have such a powerful disciple? World-renowned? Could he compare to the legendary first genius of the Supreme Sect, and how? Chapter 233. What realm is above the heaven and earth? Flying Immortal Guwen saw through Yang Jian's thoughts but didn't explain and instead waited for his choice. Yang Jian's bones were special and required vast amounts of spiritual energy for body tempering. This process was bound to be painful, so Guwen let him choose. No matter how strong the aptitude, without a firm will, the road ahead would be difficult. The Blood Prison Great Saint looked at Yang Jian mockingly, wanting to see how the boy would choose. Yang Jian clenched his teeth and said, "Yang Jian from Investiture of the Gods was able to split a mountain to save his mother and fight against the heavens. Since I've renamed myself Yang Jian, I can't disgrace his name. Even if it means my body is shattered to pieces, I will have no regrets. Master, please help me defy destiny." With that he knelt down suddenly. Guwen's lips curved upwards, and Yang Jian felt a terrifying force envelop him, sending chills down his spine. Before he could think further, he felt the world suddenly shift, causing his internal organs to quiver. The next second, the world returned to normal, and he felt his feet touch the ground. The intense sense of weightlessness made him almost want to vomit. He supported himself on the ground and instinctively looked up to see his master still sitting on the Bull Demon King's back. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. He opened his mouth and asked, "Master, just now," before he could finish his sentence, a sea breeze blew, instantly clearing his mind. He stood up and turned around, dumbfounded by what he saw. What did he see? The sea? How is that possible? Yang Jian looked towards the vast ocean in front of him, utterly stunned. Though he had never seen the ocean, he had heard old stories saying it was larger than a lake, boundless, like another world. The blood prison great saint had felt the limitless freedom step before, but each time it left him astonished. This divine skill was truly unbelievable. Without any warning, it was so fast that even he, a Mahayana realm cultivator, couldn't react. Guwen dismounted from the bull and walked towards the island's interior, saying, "Follow me." Yang Jian snapped out of his stupor and quickly followed Guwen. The blood prison great saint also followed, curious about how Guwen planned to help Yang Jian defy destiny. Could such a mediocre talent truly transform into a favored son of heaven? He was filled with doubt. Yang Jian's feelings were complex, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Just from that earlier display, he could tell that his master was definitely not a core formation realm cultivator. In other words, his master's words were true. He could defy destiny, but he would have to face bone-crushing pain. The mere thought of it made his legs tremble. Guwen noticed Yang Jian's state but didn't offer any comfort because Yang Jian would have to face it eventually. After walking into the forest, Yang Jian's attention was diverted. He found the spiritual energy here incredibly abundant, and the creatures on the island seemed unusual. He saw a blue-furred rabbit as fast as lightning. There were also snakes resembling white jade, spiders like gemstones, and long creatures hovering in midair like sea dragons. All these new sights stimulated his senses. After walking for an hour, Guwen finally stopped at a lakeside deep within the forest. He stood by the lake, took out a great cauldron, and started a fire. Yang Jian watched as Guwen pointed with his right hand, shooting out a blue flame, feeling an even deeper sense of awe. "Master, what realm are you in?" Yang Jian braved himself to ask. Guwen casually replied, "Loose immortal realm." "What is a loose immortal?" "Qi cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing unification, mystic heart, Mahayana. These are the 9 ranks of the mortal realm. Beyond that is the immortal path realm. Nirvana is the first step on the immortal path, and loose immortal is the second step." Guwen explained, and Yang Jian gasped in shock. The blood prison great saint also learned about the immortal path realm for the first time. Was his master really only 2 major realms above him? The blood prison great saint suspected Guwen was hiding something. Fortunately, Yang Jian, the innocent one, asked the question he wanted to ask: "What realm is above loose immortal?" "That is something you will have to seek out yourself in the future." Guwen answered. While he intended to reveal part of his strength, he couldn't fully expose himself. There always had to be some reserve. He had recently been contemplating breaking through to a higher realm. In case a world-destroying sea tide erupted, he feared the heaven and earth flying immortal technique wouldn't suffice. He wasn't too worried though. If the mortal world were ever submerged, he could escape to outer heaven or open a grotto heaven under the sea, bringing those close to him into a minor heaven and earth of his own creation. Yang Jian continued to inquire about the differences between the various realms, and Guwen patiently answered, gradually emboldening Yang Jian. He suddenly felt that his master wasn't as terrifying as he had initially thought and was actually quite gentle. In reality, Guwen treated all his disciples gently, including him, but his desire to depend on Guwen brought inevitable pressure. After Guwen had finished preparing the medicinal herbs, he instructed Yang Jian to enter the medicine cauldron. Yang Jian asked if he needed to undress, and Guwen replied that it wasn't necessary. Ordinary robes couldn't block spiritual energy. Yang Jian sat inside the medicine cauldron, extremely nervous, clutching the corners of his robe tightly, with cold sweat the size of beans dripping from his forehead. The blood prison great saint stood up, placing his hooves on the edge of the medicine cauldron, and said, "Boy, the path of immortal cultivation is arduous. Many times, you just need to think about holding on a little longer, just a little longer, and the pain you're enduring will soon pass." Yang Jian took a deep breath, looked at the blood prison great saint, and asked, "Senior Niu, may I ask what realm you are in?" Since his master was a loose immortal, the bull demon king, as his master's mount, must be incredibly strong. Otherwise, why would his master only bring him along? The blood prison great saint looked at Guwen, saw him nod, then turned back, smiling proudly, and said, I am at the Mahayana realm's 8th floor, and am not just a bull demon. I am the blood prison great saint who ascended from the lower realm. He recounted his glorious history endlessly, leaving Yang Jian with his mouth agape. The Mahayana realm's 8th floor. He knew that the supreme sect had only 2 Mahayana realm cultivators in name. Who would have thought that the bull raised by his master was at the Mahayana realm? Yang Jian was dazzled by the immense joy, feeling as if he were dreaming. Guwen instructed the blood prison great saint to step aside, and the blood prison great saint had no choice but to shut up and move away, showing none of the bearing of a Mahayana realm cultivator. Guwen took out an elixir and handed it to Yang Jian, saying, after consuming this, follow the mental method I described and cultivate your energy. I will guide you in your training. No matter how much it hurts, you must follow my guidance to absorb energy. Otherwise, you will perish, and not even an immortal Daoist can save you. Yang Jian was about to ask what an immortal Daoist was when he saw Guwen turn away. He could only toss the elixir into his mouth. The moment it entered, it dissolved, and Yang Jian felt his throat burning, his body suddenly heating up. At this moment, Gu An's voice reached his ears using the sound transmission skill, along with a domineering force entering his body, guiding him to absorb nature's spiritual energy. Guwen was teaching the all things form and energy art. The all things form and energy art originated and continually elevated from the energy nurturing skill. It was fundamentally a body tempering technique. Although Guwen rarely engaged in close combat, his physique was robust. Furthermore, the all things form and energy art could conceal one's aura, making it perfect for Yang Jian to hide his strength in the future. Guwen wasn't worried about Yang Jian revealing the technique, as he himself would inevitably upgrade it further. Yang Jian began absorbing energy following the power within him while keeping his master's mental method in mind. As time passed, the medicinal soup in the cauldron started to boil. Yang Jian's skin turned hot red, but the pain in his skin was insignificant compared to the agony of tearing in his bones and muscles. Pain beyond imagination. The sensation of thousands of insects gnawing at bones, tearing muscles, couldn't begin to describe this agony. His master's voice constantly echoed in his ears, making him feel less afraid. With his master present, he felt inexplicably reassured. Just like the blood prison great saint had said, hold on a little longer, and soon it would be over. The pain intensified, and gradually he began gritting his teeth. His hair fluttered, veins bulged on his face, and his body was drenched, making it hard to distinguish between sweat and medicinal fluid. Crunch! His body suddenly made a hair-raising sound, as if bones were grinding against each other. Even the blood prison great saint couldn't help but shiver. Can he really defy destiny? The blood prison great saint thought in shock. To him, Guwen remained the omnipotent immortal. He turned his head, seeing Guwen standing by the lake with his back to the medicine cauldron, his calm demeanor earning even more admiration. For Guwen, defying destiny seemed like it wasn't a difficult task. Little did the blood prison great saint know, Guwen wasn't truly defying destiny but merely helping Yang Jian restore his true physique. At this moment, Guwen was multitasking, guiding Yang Jian's cultivation while using his divine sense to scan the ocean. He was searching for a suitable place for his next breakthrough. I wonder what realm lies beyond heaven and earth. Flying immortal, Guwen thought expectantly. With over 16 million years of lifespan, he felt he should be able to break through. However, he hesitated over whether to enhance his cultivation techniques and divine skills, as elevating them required investing tens of thousands or even more lifespan years. He feared he might not have enough lifespan left to break through afterward. Yang Jian suddenly let out a shrill scream, making the blood prison great saint's heart tighten. This seemed more painful than when he had absorbed the true blood of the divine beast. Guwen didn't turn back, seemingly unconcerned about Yang Jian. The elixir he had given Yang Jian was extraordinary, worth 100 supreme-grade spirit stones, equivalent to 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. 100 million low-grade spirit stones. It was known that outer sect servant disciples only received 1 low-grade spirit stone per month as stipend. The treatment in Mystic Valley and the Third Medicine Valley was better, but not by much. With this elixir, Yang Jian might even make a direct breakthrough, depending on how much of the medicinal power his physique could absorb. Time passed by second by second. After a while of screaming, Yang Jian's voice suddenly stopped. The blood prison great saint widened his eyes in shock. Yang Jian slowly rose from the cauldron, still in a meditative posture. His black hair fluttered, skin glowing red. Strangely, he emitted a menacing aura, frightening the blood prison great saint. This feeling was like encountering a nemesis. Rumble, a thundercloud had quietly formed in the sky, brewing a mighty force. What kind of life grid is being altered? This is too overwhelming. The blood prison great saint thought in astonishment. Even with his divine beast blood-enhanced physique, he was intimidated by Yang Jian's presence, indicating how terrifying Yang Jian's physique had become. He turned to look at Guan, who remained unfazed, seeming. Chapter 234. Only I can decide my disciple's life and death. Rumble. The sound of thunder continued to roar, causing the ocean around the island to rise and fall, with howling winds signaling the approach of a storm. Guan had his back to Yang Jian, his divine sense enveloping the sea area spanning thousands of miles, constantly on guard against any approach by a great cultivator. He wasn't worried about the celestial tribulation Yang Jian was causing, as such tribulations were insignificant over the ocean. Yang Jian's cultivation level was formidable enough that, though terrifying, it was only a threat to cultivators of lower realms. Yang Jian still had his eyes closed, meditating in midair. His robe fluttered wildly as the nature's spiritual energy surged into his mouth and nose. Simultaneously, his pores expelled searing qi, enveloping him and making him appear extremely imposing. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, enduring unimaginable pain. His entire focus was on his inner being, completely unaware of the outside world, or even that he had floated up into the air. The thunder roared like a heavenly god, oppressively overwhelming. The blood prison great saint lay prone on the ground, his mindset now adjusted and filled with anticipation. He was eager to see what kind of defying fate Yang Jian would create. Bang! A sudden bolt of lightning struck down, hitting Yang Jian. In an instant, his robe was reduced to ashes, and his body turned charred. As the lightning subsided, blood began to seep from his skin, making him look ghastly. Within 3 breaths, he was transformed into a bloodied figure. Guan turned to look at Yang Jian, his gaze remaining calm. The blood prison great saint also remained composed, sensing that Yang Jian's life was not in immediate danger. One bolt of heavenly lightning after another struck down. Guan sharply noticed that these heavenly lightnings contained 5 elements spiritual energy. Could it be that Yang Jian's physique could directly absorb the 5 elements spiritual energy? No wonder such immense spiritual energy was needed to break through the constraints deep within his bone marrow. Too monstrous, thus unaccepted by the heavenly Tao? Guan's expectations for Yang Jian grew. He wanted to see what kind of transformation Yang Jian would undergo. Yang Jian continued to endure the lightning strikes, his skin and flesh splitting open, blood splattering, yet his aura didn't weaken. Instead, it brewed an even stronger force. After around 30 minutes, Yang Jian's body was devoid of hair. His skin was completely charred, with white bones faintly visible at the joints. The might of the heavenly lightning reached a new height, causing the blood prison great saint to grow tense, fearing that Yang Jian might suddenly die. At this moment, Guan felt an aura rapidly approaching. It was a Nirvana realm cultivator, not too strong. As long as a loose immortal or higher did not appear, Guan wouldn't need to forcibly take Yang Jian away. Soon, a figure flew into the island, traversed the forest, and quickly landed by the lake. Without looking at Guan or the blood prison great saint, his gaze fixed on Yang Jian, filled with astonishment. Immortal seeking Daoist, Nirvana realm 9 layers, 20489/25000/300000. Immortal seeking Daoist? This name seemed familiar. Guan suddenly remembered that Wuxin mentioned being taught the Daoist expansion skill by a divine monk who called himself Immortal seeking Taoist. He didn't expect this person to be a nirvana realm existence. In other words, during his weaker days, there was a nirvana realm great cultivator in the Tri-3 halls. If he had recklessly seized lifespans and grown rapidly, he could have very likely perished at the hands of a nirvana realm great cultivator. This made him feel fortunate for having kept a low profile. Though named a Daoist, Immortal seeking Taoist looked more like a monk, clad in a dark yellow monk robe and cassock, with a youthful and handsome face. Guan remained silent, but the blood prison great saint wasn't pleased. He grumbled, "Hey, smelly monk, who let you in? You come in without a greeting?" Since deciding to be Guan's exclusive mount, his mindset had shifted. The monk could disrespect him, but he must respect his master. Immortal seeking Taoist glanced at the blood prison great saint, smiled, then looked at Guan, cupping his fists in salute. "This humble Daoist is Immortal seeking Taoist. May I know the honored name of Daoist friend, and what is your relationship with this person?" Guan calmly replied, "My name is Meng Lang, he is my disciple." Immortal seeking Taoist noted that Guan's aura only indicated a core formation realm cultivation level, but he didn't believe it, growing even more curious. Being unable to discern the other's true cultivation meant the other was likely far superior to him. He smiled, "Daoist friend Meng, your disciple is extraordinary. His heavenly destiny exceeds the current world's limits. It should have been buried, but you discovered it. This world will change because of him." Guan asked, "Oh, did I make a mistake?" "Not at all, the affairs of heaven and earth are about change. The old gives way to the new, and everything changes daily. There's no right or wrong." Immortal seeking Taoist smiled, his gaze then returning to Yang Jian, filled with wonder. Guan inquired, "Daoist friend, do you know what his physique is?" Immortal seeking Taoist pondered, "This humble Daoist finds it hard to judge. He has the mysteries of the ancient 5 elements treasure body and the fierce qi and blood of the primeval tyrant body." 5 elements treasure body? Guan had once possessed the 5 elements treasure body but had ascended to an innate Taoist body, transforming further into his current mystic holy body. Are the 5 elements treasure body and primeval tyrant body powerful? The blood prison great saint asked, making Guan quite satisfied with him. Good, he has potential. If Guan asked this himself, it would have lessened his status. Immortal seeking Taoist smiled at the blood prison great saint, saying, "Naturally, in ancient times, talent wasn't solely determined by spirit root attribute and qualification. Physique also played a major role. Those with treasure bodies, regardless of spirit root qualification, ultimately became legendary rulers of the immortal path." He began to recount the ancient treasure bodies he knew about. The exquisite treasure body, a physique of great comprehension, impervious to evil influences. The flame primordial treasure body, a body like blazing sun, which could transform into a glorious sun at its peak. The defying blood treasure body, where near-death situations trigger immense potential, possibly leading to permanent power increases. And so on. Immortal seeking Taoist described 8 types of treasure bodies, astonishing both Guan and the blood prison great saint. From his tales, ancient immortal paths seemed stronger than today's, with various treasure bodies thriving, myriad races standing tall, and even reincarnation existing, allowing the mighty to seek immortal opportunities through rebirth. "Daoist friend, I hope today's events remain between us," Guan said. Immortal seeking Taoist had shown no hostility and shared much ancient lore, which spoke well of him, though not necessarily proving him absolutely good, but certainly not bad at the moment. Immortal seeking Taoist nodded. "Rest assured, this humble Daoist doesn't wish to see such a promising figure fall either." Bang! Suddenly, Yang Jian erupted with a terrifying force, shaking the forest and causing ripples in the nearby lake. The thunderclouds emitted a red glow. A terrifying red lightning bolt struck Yang Jian, making him scream in agony. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation. Immortal seeking Taoist frowned, stating each word slowly. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation? Guwen remembered this name. It was the tribulation he faced when breaking through to the void-crossing realm in his cultivating visions. This tribulation is odd, beyond what his cultivation should attract. It's a certain death tribulation. The blood prison great saint shouted in horror. This tribulation surpassed even his unification realm tribulation in intensity. He sensed the mystic dark heavenly tribulation still brewing, with the true horror yet to come. Immortal seeking Daoist took a deep breath and said, "Indeed, a certain death tribulation. It seems the heavens will not tolerate him." Guwen thought of An Hao, who also had a 9,999-year lifespan, yet faced less intense tribulations. Could it mean that even within the same 9,999-year limit, talent varied? This number marked a human limit, but talent had no bounds. Immortal seeking Daoist said to Guwen, "The mystic dark heavenly tribulation is a tribulation of karma, not to be forcibly dispersed. Intervening would stain you with karma, leading to facing the same, or even stronger, tribulation yourself during a breakthrough." His face expressed deep regret. What a pity for such a promising seedling. Guwen looked at Yang Jian and remained silent. Karma from the heavenly tribulation? Sorry, he didn't undergo tribulations, and he had faced this kind of tribulation in his cultivating visions, enduring it without assistance. He had made it through. Another bolt of lightning fell, this time even more terrifying. Guwen's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly waved his sleeve. His long sleeve swept, directly dispersing the thunderclouds, allowing sunlight to shine down on Yang Jian. The tribulation dissolved instantly. Immortal seeking Daoist's eyes widened in disbelief as he turned his head to look at Guwen, who remained indifferent, serene. The blood prison great saint turned as well, wanting to speak but holding back. Immortal seeking Daoist felt the dissipating aura and his eyes grew complicated. He sighed, "Daoist friend, why did you go to such lengths?" Guwen looked at the blood-soaked Yang Jian and said, "Immortal cultivation is about enduring tribulations. So what if it's a different tribulation? Only I determine my disciples' life and death." How domineering! The blood prison great saint felt his blood boil. Following such a person was indeed a blessing. Immortal seeking Daoist looked at Guwen, opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. He raised his hand in salute, showing respect. Then, they both waited for Yang Jian to awaken. They could feel Yang Jian's qi blood rapidly strengthening. With the tribulation gone, ample spiritual energy rushed towards him, causing a profound transformation in his bones and marrow. After a long time, Immortal seeking Daoist asked Guwen, "May I ask where Daoist friend hails from?" "From the West." "The West? Have you heard of Immortal Seeking Island?" Guwen glimpsed at Immortal seeking Daoist, curiously inquiring, "Immortal Seeking Island? Immortal seeking Daoist? Could there be a connection?" Immortal seeking Daoist smiled. "So, Daoist friend knows Immortal Seeking Island. To be honest, I founded the island long ago, later passing it to my disciple. The fame it enjoys now is all thanks to him, not myself." The island master of Immortal Seeking Island was a wandering immortal, while Immortal Seeking Daoist was merely a nirvana realm cultivator. Indeed, one shouldn't judge solely by cultivation level. Background and connections also counted as strength. Guwen reflected on this and then engaged in polite conversation with Immortal seeking Daoist. It wasn't until early the next morning that Yang Jian's transformation concluded. He leaped into the lake, washed his body, and then stepped ashore. Under the sunlight, he had grown a few inches taller, his skin fair and his muscles well-defined, exuding immense strength from merely looking at his upper body. Chapter 235 Post-Holiday Breakthrough. Looking at Yang Jian, who was now a completely different person, Guwen smiled. Yang Jian had reached the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm in one go. His chi blood was even stronger than that of the Foundation Establishment realm, proving that Guwen's elixirs and medicinal herbs had not been wasted. Of course, Yang Jian's physique surely still held more mysteries that needed to be uncovered through future cultivation. Guwen took out a blue robe and tossed it to Yang Jian, who hurriedly put it on. The immortal-seeking Taoist quickly walked up to Yang Jian and carefully looked him over. The more he looked, the happier he became, as if staring at a rare treasure, making Yang Jian feel very uncomfortable. "Young friend, your master is exceedingly good to you. Do you know what kind of tribulation you just went through?" The immortal-seeking Taoist said. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian couldn't help but ask what kind of heavenly tribulation it was. Then, the immortal-seeking Taoist began to explain the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and told him that it was Guwen who had dispelled the tribulation, bearing great heavenly tribulation consequences as a result. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face changed dramatically. He hurriedly bypassed the immortal-seeking Taoist and ran to Guwen, kneeling before him. "Master, your disciple is not worthy of your actions. Your disciple let you down." Yang Jian's forehead touched the ground, choking with emotion as he spoke. He felt both moved and guilty in his heart. His master had changed his fate, not only by providing precious elixirs and medicinal herbs, but also by bearing the consequences of the heavenly tribulation. The depth of this kindness was immense. From childhood to adulthood, although he had not suffered hardships and had a happy family, ever since his spirit root was detected, his world had turned dark. Guwen not only brought him hope but also fulfilled that hope. Yang Jian knew well that his master could train other disciples and was not obligated to choose him, which made the weight of this kindness even heavier. Guwen looked down at him and said, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, it is something a master should do. Get up now. I do not seek your repayment in the future, just that you avoid causing trouble and implicating your master." Yang Jian looked up and saw Guwen blinking at him. He immediately understood that his master was joking with him, just like Master Puda's advice to Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. "Master, get up now. A real man doesn't cry. What kind of behavior is this?" All right. Watching Guwen and Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist felt deeply moved. He had a feeling that many years later, today's events would become a story as Yang Jian's name shook the world. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Daoist friend, our meeting is fate. I have a divine skill here that I would like to give to your disciple. Would you mind?" Guwen said, "Jianer, quickly bow in gratitude to senior." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian turned around, cupped his fists, and bowed to the immortal-seeking Taoist, thanking him for the divine skill. The immortal-seeking Taoist took out a secret book from his sleeve and handed it to Yang Jian. "Young friend, what is your name? I will keep an eye on your achievements in the future." Yang Jian took the secret book, first looking at Guwen, seeing him nod. He then replied, "My name is Yang Jian." "Yang Jian." The immortal-seeking Taoist noted the name. He felt like he had seen it somewhere in a book before. Afterward, the immortal-seeking Taoist did not disturb the master and disciple any further and took his leave. Guwen began to teach Yang Jian the heaven and earth primordial skill. The all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill were Guwen's foundation techniques. Even and how only practiced a lower version, showing how much Guwen valued Yang Jian. Yang Jian had been in the valley for many years. Though he didn't have an outstanding personality, Guwen liked his honesty. This boy had ambitions but did things steadily. He clearly wanted to get close to Guwen but never looked for a chance to face Guwen directly. Instead, he dutifully served the Blood Prison Great Saint and the White Spirit Rat for years, which even Guwen found amusing. In Guwen's eyes, Yang Jian was like an unpolished gem, and he looked forward to seeing what kind of person Yang Jian would become under his careful training. Guwen did not seek Yang Jian's repayment in the future. Teaching Yang Jian was just an embellishment to his leisurely life. He merely wanted to teach a disciple, nothing more. In the evening at the Third Medicine Valley, Guwen rode the Blood Prison Great Saint down from the transmission array platform, with Yang Jian following beside him. "Master, where have you been? I haven't seen you for 4 days." A passing Xian asked curiously. Her eyes turned to Yang Jian, widening as she carefully examined him. "Just went out for a walk." Guwen casually replied, then dismounted and walked alone towards the pavilion. An Xian immediately approached Yang Jian, examined him closely, and asked, "Are you really Yang Jian? How have you changed so much?" Yang Jian had already mastered the sorcery of the all things form and energy art, letting him conceal his aura, but he couldn't precisely disguise his realm. He said nervously, "Master gave me an elixir to temper my muscles and bones, so my skin has become a bit whiter." "I see, it looks like Master has accepted you as a closed-door disciple." Anexine smiled. She did not harbor any jealousy, as her master was far more powerful than Guan. Although the disciples of the Medicine Valley all called Guan master, it was merely a term of respect with no actual relationship. Yang Jian scratched his head and smiled. Though still shy, he now exuded more confidence. The two chatted for a while, and more disciples noticed Yang Jian's changes, gathering around to inquire. In just a few days, Yang Jian seemed to have transformed from a countryside boy into a clean and handsome young gentleman, which was quite a shock for the disciples who knew him. Soon, the news about Yang Jian becoming Gu An's closed-door disciple spread, and because of Yang Jian's transformation, Guan became even more mysterious in the eyes of the disciples. In the days to follow, Yang Jian continued to do chores like other servant disciples, but he spent most of his spare time on cultivation, hiding in his room for most of the day. To prevent anyone from disturbing his cultivation, Guan arranged a separate courtyard for him. Yang Jian truly felt the change in status that came with becoming Gu An's disciple, making him even more grateful to Guan. Time flew by. Another new spring festival arrived. The immortal cultivation world was already dominated by the Heavenly Rankings Tournament. The Supreme Sect had set the specific date for the Heavenly Rankings Tournament to be in 10 years during the Spring Festival. When Yi Lan and Zhen Qin came to the Third Medicine Valley to visit Guan, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them and pointed out that he was his disciple. Because of this, Yi Lan even gifted Yang Jian a magic artifact. Zhen Qin was very happy, considering herself his senior sister, and told him to come to the inner sect if he ever needed anything. Little did they know, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them to provide them with a backing. Since his physique awakening, Yang Jian had cultivated for half a year, raising his cultivation level from the 5th layer to the 6th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed was very fast, and it was estimated that he could form his core before the Heavenly Rankings Tournament started. One should know that half a year ago, he was only a 3rd layer energy cultivation cultivator. Apart from the increase in cultivation level, Yang Jian's understanding of the all things form and energy art was very quick. It seemed he was naturally suited for body refinement. LV Beiyin also visited the Third Medicine Valley to speak with Guan. Guan similarly introduced Yang Jian to LV Beiyin. In the room, LV Beiyin looked over Yang Jian, who was energetic, becoming more astonished as he gazed. This qi blood was extraordinary. Even though Yang Jian hit his cultivation level, his aura made anyone feel that he was not ordinary at first glance. Upon knowing that this person was the sect leader of the Supreme Sect, Yang Jian was very surprised. But compared to before, he treated others more composedly, a confidence that came from his strength. Moreover, he knew his master was a loose immortal, more powerful than anyone in the Supreme Sect. This secret was only known to him and the Blood Prison Great Saint, making him more proud. Your disciple is remarkable. It's a waste for him to be your disciple. Why not let him come with me to the inner sect for training? LV Beiyin said. Before Guan could answer, Yang Jian quickly responded, "Thank you for your kind offer, sect leader, but I only wish to serve my master. I will never take a second master in this life." LV Beiyin's expression became strange. Guan chuckled and said, "Naughty boy, how dare you interrupt when I'm speaking with the sect leader?" LV Beiyin couldn't help but look at Guan. For some reason, he felt that Guan had changed. This change was hard to articulate. That was the feeling. From the moment he entered the room, he felt that Guan and Yang Jian shared a common aura, one that only the proudest of heaven possessed. Could it be that Guan had encountered a great opportunity? LV Beiyin pondered and then smiled. No harm done. Since he is your disciple, I wouldn't force it. Let's talk about the Heavenly Rankings Tournament. Guan nodded, and the two began discussing the Heavenly Rankings Tournament. Only then did Yang Jian learn that the Heavenly Rankings Tournament, which had become the talk of the immortal cultivation world, was his master's idea. Although a bit surprised, he was not shocked. What is the Heavenly Rankings tournament compared to this? His master was a loose immortal, definitely the most powerful in the world. Even the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao might not be his master's opponent. Sword Venerable Fudao's battle records were widely known, but the realm of his opponents was not clearly transmitted. At least Yang Jian didn't know. An ancient hour later, the three descended the stairs. LV Bayin did not leave but stayed at the third Medicine Valley for the festival, chatting with Guan. He found it very enjoyable, as Guan always inspired him, and there was no scheming between them. They could open up their hearts and drink freely. Yang Jian was also praised by many disciples. His wine cup rarely left his hand, making this the happiest spring festival of his life. Late at night, Guan came to Nianchu Cave, bringing fine wine and delicacies. He sat with Tian Yaoer, Tian Qing, and Tian by around a stone table. "Eat slowly, there's plenty more," Guan said, watching the three demons devour the food, laughing. He still wore a mask which exposed his mouth so he could drink. Tian Yaoer put down the roasted lamb leg in her hand, wiped the grease from the corner of her mouth, and asked curiously, "Master, you seem very happy?" "Not bad. I accepted a disciple in the past half-year. He has excellent talent and constantly gives me surprises, so I'm naturally in a good mood," Guan replied, taking the opportunity to caution the three demons not to be lazy. Tian Yaoer frowned and asked, "Disciple? Male or female?" "Male, why?" "Nothing. Don't worry, Master, I won't disappoint you either. I'll spar with your disciple sometime in the future," Tian Yaoer said confidently. Guan smiled and agreed to the request. Although Tian Yaoer's maximum lifespan was longer than Yang Jian's, as a demon, it was not comparable. In terms of talent, Tian Yaoer could not match Yang Jian. Guan was more eager to see a spar between An Hao and Yang Jian. After the spring festival, he planned to find a place to break through and then visit An Hao. The 8th to 9th layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm cost 30,000 years of lifespan. To reach a higher realm, failing once would mean waiting for more than 30,000 years before trying again. Failing 100 times would cost at least 3 million years of lifespan, which made him shudder just thinking about it. If he could use 10 million years of lifespan to break through to a higher realm, he would consider himself lucky. So he dared not upgrade his cultivation technique or physique, deciding to brute force his way in the realm instead. Guan took a deep breath and first invested 1 million years of lifespan to test the waters. You cultivated through energy absorption for 50,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation and failed. You cultivated through energy absorption for 100,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation and failed. Crossing the tribulation every 50,000 years? A bit harsh. Guan looked at the constant failure prompts before him, feeling somewhat panicked. 1 million years of lifespan resulted in just 20 failures. It would take 5 million years of lifespan to fail 100 times. The more Guan thought, the more anxious he became. His heart hardened, and he directly invested 5 million years of lifespan into cultivation. Fail. Guan couldn't even be bothered to look closely, just seeing that as long as the prompt didn't grow longer, it meant all failures. After all, 5 million years of lifespan ultimately went down the drain, another 100 failures. This carefree primordial immortal realm was truly difficult to break through. No wonder he had never even heard of it in the real world. There were legends of heaven and earth flying immortals above the sea, but no tales of carefree primordial immortals. Guan pulled up the attribute panel again, and seeing there were still 10 million years of lifespan left, his heart settled a little. Another 5 million years of lifespan. He didn't believe he couldn't break through. Series of prompts crazily popped up, and within the lifespan barrier, spiritual energy never surged, and the leaves above his head swayed with the wind, producing rustling sounds that made Guan feel malice. It was as if the lifespan barrier was mocking him. The second 5 million years of lifespan all ended up in failures. He had already spent 11 million years of lifespan, failing 220 times to cross the tribulation. If he upgraded his cultivation technique and physique first, today would he be unable to break through? But even if he didn't break through, at least his strength would have increased like now. If he ultimately failed, he would have gained nothing. Guan couldn't accept such a failure, so he continued investing, this time putting in 500,000 years of lifespan. Constant failures appeared before him, but finally, a prompt suddenly lengthened, surprising him with joy. It worked. You cultivated through energy absorption for 350,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, you survived the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation successfully, and your cultivation level advanced to the first layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 410,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the second layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 470,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the third layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 500,000 years, your cultivation level increased. 60,000 years for a small realm advancement, this carefree primordial immortal was truly fierce. Guan felt sentimental, the lifespan barrier finally began to function, and earth spirit energy surged into his body. He didn't remain idle, continuously investing lifespan into his cultivation. His cultivation's small realms could only be at the 9th layer. He wasn't used to presenting himself as an observer below the 8th layer, lacking a sense of security. Eventually, he spent another 490,000 years of lifespan to attain the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. The 8th layer to the 9th layer shockingly cost him 150,000 years of lifespan. This breakthrough took nearly 12 million years of lifespan to reach the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm, an utterly terrifying figure. Boom! The earth rumbled, and spiritual energy soared like a tide, covering the grass within the barrier. All spirit energy on the entire island and the surrounding sea area abruptly plummeted, startling all beings into panic and chaos. The influence of the lifespan barrier continued to expand. The spiritual energy required from the 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm to the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm was immense. After a few breaths, ocean demons erupted from beneath the sea. Heaven and earth were in an uproar. The island fell into a clamor as the demons roared, deafeningly. Guan saw shape-shifting demons flying over the forest, thinking an enemy was attacking the island. Guan closed his eyes and began to feel the changes within himself. He wanted to see what the carefree primordial immortal had that made it so hard to break through. After 30 minutes, a flood of profound insights exploded in Guan's mind like the universe's Big Bang, infinite information pouring into his consciousness. Heaven and earth rules. Heaven and earth flying immortal required cultivating the path of 5 elements to perceive higher realms. With the 5 elements' perfection, one could perceive the heaven and earth rules. All things in the world were composed of the unseen and untouchable power of rules. The 5 elements were the foundation, as stated in the Tao Te Ching, that Tao produced 1, 1 produced 2, 2 produced 3, and 3 produced all things. The carefree primordial immortal was the realm of perceiving the rules of heaven and earth. Reaching this realm meant being completely unbounded by the constraints of heaven and earth, completely carefree. The primordial spirit underwent a baptism by the rules of heaven and earth, reaching transcendence. His golden core and mystic heart were transforming into higher existences. The golden core was accumulating the power of heaven and earth rules to form his Tao. What was Tao? Dao encompassed everything: cultivation techniques, spells, divine skills, etc. Everything about his existence was his Dao. The golden core generated the Dao, transforming into the primordial elixir. No wonder the nascent soul and golden core independently existed. The nascent soul transformed into the primordial spirit, and the golden core transformed into the Dao. Guan guessed they would merge at some future realm, making him the incarnation of the Dao. Time flew by quickly. As Earth's spiritual energy sank faster, the clouds above churned violently as if ready to collapse with the spiritual energy. The island's demons were terrified, assembling in formations and hiding within the island, not daring to come out. Fortunately, no demon intruded into the lifespan barrier. After an hour, Guan successfully transformed into a carefree primordial immortal. Breaking free from heaven and earth rules, truly carefree. Wherever the Tao existed, the mind could reach. What was the existence of Tao? Places and beings inheriting Guan's Daoist sorcery were where the Tao existed, enabling him to easily escape and control their causes and effects. Guan realized the way of cause and effect was a unique Daoist sorcery. As his realm increased, his mastery over cause and effect grew deeper. The so-called cause and effect were the invisible forces produced by the interaction of all beings. There were cause and effect, and gathering endless cause and effect together was the world. After a major realm breakthrough, Guan's cultivation level began to surge. The primordial elixir had already deduced his Tao, and all the cause and effect related to him would appear in his Tao. He was moving towards the realm of omniscience. First, understand all his cause and effect. At higher realms, who knows if he could comprehend all cause and effect? After 3 hours, night fell, and Guan finally reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. His divine sense range was expanding continuously, perceiving the lifespan barrier's extraction range of Earth's spirit energy significantly exceeded his 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm range. Due to this immense scope, no one, not even a demon, could detect the focal point of spiritual energy's descent. When the Earth's spiritual energy ceased flowing into Guan, he slowly stood up and opened his eyes. He instantly transformed into an aurora and vanished from the spot. Then, he arrived in front of a mansion. As it was late at night, the streets were empty, but the mansion within was brightly lit. He looked up, and the signboard bore 2 words: G Mansion. Through the Tao of his primordial elixir, he arrived at the G Mansion where his cause and effect resided. Yes, it was arriving, not teleporting. Arriving wouldn't produce any signs between the 2 places, breaking free from the rules of heaven and earth, arriving at another place from a higher dimension. He was essentially traveling within his Tao. This feeling was truly marvelous. Guan walked towards the G Mansion, the place of his birth and childhood. Taking a step past the main gate, he walked within the courtyard. An old servant carrying a lantern walked towards him, passing through his body. This, too, was the mystical nature of the carefree primordial immortal. Mortal spirits couldn't see, mortal spirits couldn't touch. No wonder there were no legends of the carefree primordial immortal. For the first time, Guan felt invincible. If there ever comes a day when Sword Venerable Fudao leaves, the supreme sect would be quickly annihilated. Wu Ju firmly responded, "Impossible. Why would the supreme sect alone face destruction? Is the Songtian sect absolutely safe? Besides Sword Venerable Fudao, there are other great cultivators in the Supreme Sect. I believe the Supreme Sect is stronger than the Songtian sect. In saying this, he was severing ties with Zhou Yu, who now served the Songtian sect. Zhou Yu's expression turned ugly and he said, "Think carefully, betrayal of the Zhou family will make you our enemy. Out of respect for our master-disciple relationship, I can let you go today, but in the future, I will kill you to uphold the Zhou family's reputation. Not only you, but anyone associated with you will die, such as your only brother in the Supreme Sect, Guan. Besides Guan, all your friends in the main city of the sect will also die." Zhou Yu truly did not want to let Wu Ju go, as Wu Ju's perception was too formidable. He believed Wu Ju could rival in Hao. The Songtian sect had no talent comparable to in Hao. Moreover, Wu Ju had no background and was alone. In the future, he could marry into the Zhou family, continuing the lineage of exceptional talent. Upon hearing this, Wu Ju's expression turned grim. He tried to keep calm, took a deep breath and asked, "Since when did you start investigating me?" When Zhou Yu mentioned Guan, Wu Ju panicked. So, the Zhou family still had spies within the Supreme Sect. Zhou Yu said calmly, "From the day you became my disciple, I understood all your relationships. It's not too late to turn back now. You can even bring those you care about into the Songtian sect in the future." This time, he didn't mention Guan. Because he couldn't draw in Guan, knowing Guan was actually Panin and close to LV Baiyin. The thought that Guan could influence Wu Ju meant that LV Baiyin might be able to win over Wu Ju, inflaming his killing intent. Why should LV Baiyin have both in Hao and Wu Ju, these two peerless talents? Wu Ju fell into a struggle. If the Zhou family came only for him, he wouldn't be afraid. But since it involved Guan, he had to hesitate. His talent and perception were top-notch, and he believed he could become a world-shaking force. But he was still young and needed time to grow. The Zhou family, in his eyes, was a colossal existence, one he couldn't challenge alone. The Zhou family still had spies within the Supreme Sect. He couldn't keep an eye on Guan all the time. What if one day a Zhou family spy attacked Guan? He couldn't bear to imagine such a scenario. Damn it, Wu Ju clenched his fists, staring at Zhou Yu with eyes ablaze. Zhou Yu sighed and said, "Disciple actually, boom." A sudden thunderbolt struck down with a speed that left Wu Ju and the others no time to react, hitting Zhou Yu and sending everyone flying from the blast. He will eventually astonish the world. Although I'm uncertain if he'll live to see that day, I hope you will support each other on the immortal cultivation path, advancing and retreating together. After all, this path requires more than just oneself. These words made Liya emotional. He knew junior brother Gus' talent was mediocre, so he certainly couldn't vie for longevity like him. Liya earnestly said, "Rest assured, your disciple is my disciple. As long as I am alive, I will protect him with my life. Anyone who dares to harm him must step over my dead body first." Yang Jian looked at Liya, his eyes showing a change. "You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.